This is Jonah Hill, and you're listening to the only podcast that matters.
Bro Gang, we are joined by the king of cable, the late night lord, the producer prince, Jesus Amero's ace in the sleeve, the East Flatbush Pharaoh, the Don Dada of digital, the IMDb MVP, the Showtime shaman. This man doesn't hire white people, so you know I'm fucking with him. Senior digital producer of Jesus and Mero, Rob YC McRae.
Young Costanza type beat. What's up, dude?
Thanks for having me, guys. That was a great. I mean, I might need to record that as a DJ drop. That's incredible.
Well, you're recording all of this, you know.
Well,
so.
Actually, Lawrence is recording this, so there's a high chance that this never comes out.
Yeah, we're just doing it for us, dude. Just for the boys, man. This is for nobody else.
You talked about being Zoom illiterate. We've mastered Zoom on the pod, so hopefully we'll be able to do this. Like so much so that Lawrence, before you came on, his username was taking a quick shit. So that anyone who logged on to the Zoom knew that he was taking a quick shit.
Yeah, man. You got to use your brain.
Well, now it's just something else. He's using the working component of the household. Name right now.
Whoopsie. Yeah, I should. Let me rename that to "not taking a quick shit anymore." All right, got that.
I don't even know how to do that, so you're ahead of the game. I've been on Zoom calls where it's like people's names are like, join my Google Hangout, which I don't know how they possibly made that a thing. This woman is like 90 years old, so it's fine. But
why are you Zooming with 90-year-old women?
I was just going to say, why am I doing that? But like, let's not talk about it. We all need to like
Zoom in with boomers.
New revenue streams.
Yeah.
So you've just been doing Zoom dates then? Is that what
Zoom is with boomers?
I mean, if you can call it that.
Well, listen, Rob, what we do want to do on this Zoom right now is to do a fit check, buddy. And you can go top down or bottom up. And you do have a fresh fade, but I hope that fact does not lead you astray.
I think I got to go bottom up because of the expert opinions of you guys. I think that's your preferred way to go.
Yeah, assuming you're not a police officer, an officer of the law.
I mean, the worst time ever to be one. So right now I am sitting in my house, so I am wearing the Nike slides with the tie-dye Nike sock.
Oh, the Benassi slide. That's very like a classic slide.
A classic house shoe.
Slideman.
But yeah.
Are your tie-dye socks, like, did you do those yourself or did you buy those?
No, I got them from a friend who does them. I wish I knew what his name was. He's not that good of a friend, clearly. But I got sent a pair through a friend. Actually, you know Paulie's boy. Paulie Wave of Thrones.
Of course, Paulie Cristo. Paulie C.
Paulie Cristo, the god. Shout out to him. His friend actually makes them, and Paulie got me a pair. So that's where I got the socks from.
Very nice.
Is it Liam?
Is it
That's
Liam?
what I was thinking.
Liam Goslet? Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yes. There you go.
Damn, Liam almost got dubbed on mic in front of the paywall.
Yeah.
Happy we could fucking correct that.
I'm not going to lie. I went through Instagram trying to find this guy's name because I don't know him at all. So I try to find it so I could be prepared and give him his proper respect. And
shout out Liam, and you're welcome for the fucking shout out. Send through a couple pairs for the boys, for this free clout.
I mean, they took. I think is he based in Canada?
Yeah, Toronto.
Yes. Yeah, so it took literally months to get here because they got held up in customs with the drugs and the guns and shit, I guess. I don't know.
How many guns came in the package with the socks?
None in my package, but I won't speak for Paul because that was his delivery. So
Liam, if you want to include any drugs or guns in the socks, feel free, my guy. Need to armor
the New World Order.
Yeah, and then moving on up, Rob, what are the shorts today? I saw because you got up earlier, so I saw some fucking kneecap.
I got the Mitchell and Ness Detroit Pistons lightning bolt throwback.
Ooh, bad boys, dude.
What you gonna do?
You know,
are you a Pistons guy?
Absolutely not. I'm a fashion guy. I love lightning bolts. I'm a big weather guy. So
big Harry Potter fan.
Yeah, I love lightning bolts, so that's why I got these on. And I guess moving up, it's very very easy fit check since we're actually in our own homes right now.
Sure.
Just a plain heathered Velveteen t-shirt, pocket tee.
Ooh, Velveteen. Yo, great great
nice
brand. Yeah, not.
Oh, I gotta say, it's a cool brand. I like this is probably like my favorite t-shirt, and I like how they make them. But I will say that I tried to buy the same t-shirt like 5 years later, and it looks the same, but I don't want to be like they don't make it like they used to guy, but they don't make it like they used to.
Damn,
They're
make
like
Velveteen great again, you know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, maybe Joe Biden will get on that if he gets on, which who knows? Not to get political.
That is part of his platform.
Yeah.
His very incomplete, rambling platform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, it's that one brain cell is working overtime. So, you know, you got to give credit where credit
Nothing so far on affordable childcare or anything, but many words on restoring the greatness of Velveteen.
Yeah, Throwing Fits is a political podcast, Rob. Obviously, I guess you're not familiar with what we're doing now, but
we pivoted.
We're only going to talk politics. And what about the shades, the glasses?
These are Dita prescription, very prescription. I am a blind person.
Shit.
Yeah,
I can see. I feel like I just was fucking tripping there for a second when you held them on the computer.
That shit popped through the Zoom.
I take them this much off, and I'm like, I I look like the horny wolf without my glasses, the horny cartoon wolf.
Yeah, and then let's talk haircuts. You got a haircut yesterday. Yeah. Shout out Phase 2.
I got a haircut today, actually.
Oh, wow! Really? Wow. Okay.
The factory floor.
Walk us through the feeling, like when you walk through the door. You know exactly how you were feeling.
When did you moan exactly?
Yeah. How hard were you when you sat down?
Well, as I kind of mentioned a little bit before, when they announced the Phase 2 thing, I was like, I don't even know what these phases fucking are. And my girlfriend was like, oh, it's barbershops. And I was like,
Auga! Auga!
Suddenly, everything that Cuomo's doing makes perfect sense to me.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, really? Exactly.
Just panting.
Just the eyes just like bugging out.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to let everyone know that there's no soundboard right now. Lawrence and James just like pinching their own nipples. And
sorry for flicking my own bean on Mike, the fucking human soundboard, dude.
Was it hard to get? Was it hard to get an appointment, or did your barber text you ahead of time and like set it up?
No, I just walked right in. I'm like trying out like this barber that I've been trying out recently because my barber of many years has like fallen off the grid a little bit. Which
damn.
Oh shit! Is he okay?
No, he's fine, but he kind of like disappears, and he's a little bit of a shadowy figure. So I kind of see him sometimes, and then he goes AWOL for a couple months, and then he'll pop back up and be like, text me and be like, oh yeah, I'm back. From what? And we don't talk about it or whatever.
He's got secondary revenue streams, as we call them.
Right. It seems like it. I hope so. I hope it's worth it. I hope he's all right. But it was pretty. I think people are still obviously a little bit hesitant to do things and go places, as they should be. And I don't know if people even knew if these because you don't even know if these businesses are staying in business, unfortunately. So even if the barbershops are open, you don't know if your barbershop's still going to be there after 3 months of this, So I just walked in there. There was one guy already getting his haircut. The two of the barbers in there were wearing masks. The guy getting his haircut was also wearing a mask, which I thought was strange, but I was pleased that they are able to find the technology to do that. So they cut around my mask. They cut around my N95. I'm not supposed to have that mask, but my father gave it to me, and I got that. So I just kept it on the whole time, and it was fine.
They cut they don't even take it off of the ear to cut around the ear. What? They
literally moved the strap up and then moved it down. They literally left it on completely.
How good did it feel? Just sitting down, and then once the fucking clippers hit the sides, and then also walking out. Just walk us through that so we can live vicariously through this.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt really good. I think it's just like, not only is it just like a feeling of like a little bit of like normalcy, because if you like get your haircut like regularly, it's like one of those things that you definitely miss after not being able to do that. It's not anything that you're like, I'm not on the streets protesting for my right to get a haircut like we've seen, or anything like that.
Storming the Capitol building with a gun that you may or may not have received from a sockman up in Toronto.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, but it is one of those things where it's like, it's a nice to have thing that you miss. And like, I was able to just do that real quick and like be in and out in like a very not crowded situation. And I had my mask on, which is cool, but it felt good. But also like after months of just not having your haircut, no matter like how much you shower, how much you like shampoo and all this shit, it never feels quite clean. Like you feel like you're just growing all this weird fucking hair in every direction. And like, it doesn't even, it's not just the like lack of a haircut. It's like the general lack of grooming that you just give up on because like you're in this like kind of quarantine scenario and like you're just like growing like magical dreadlock like locks of hair out of your beard and shit. Like, I don't know. It's just like, it was just nice to take a break from that, I guess is what I'm saying.
Rob,
did you let the facials grow through quarantine? Because I know that you can't get your beard trimmed or anything at a barbershop now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I guess that's why you can keep on your mask, or you have to keep on your mask. But I basically kept my facial hair is not the most adult in the world, so it wasn't a huge problem for me. You got
churlish facial hair.
Yeah, I got very patchy, won't connect beard vibes. So I mean, yours looks a lot better than mine ever could, James. So you should feel good about that.
Rob, I have another question about the barbershop. What was the topic of conversation when you were like, what were people talking about? Because I'm curious. Because like, they're, what are the vibes? Are people talking about like
the general vibe? What was it harsh?
I think people were just kind of like talking about like being back and being open. You know what I mean? It was more them just being like, hey, it's been 3 months, huh? I haven't seen you in a while. Like that kind of shit, like very small talk. I don't think they've warmed up to the barbershop conspiracy theory level of discourse that we're used to at a barbershop.
Sure.
I mean, my old barber, I remember a guy who like, when people come into town and like they need a haircut, which is a thing that apparently happens, or like they move here from wherever, sometimes I'll like refer people to my old barber. And I remember I was thinking about this because I was at the barbershop, how the last time I sent Paulie to my barber, I was like, how was it? He was like, he's good. And I was like, he's a weird guy, right? And Paulie goes, yeah, he was telling me how like we shouldn't get into a war with North Korea because we can't win because they know karate.
No, you can't argue with that.
Facts.
That's good geopolitical kind of insight.
I think John Bolton said that.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that exclusive ABC interview, John Bolton said that Trump was afraid of North Korea because of their karate prowess. So yeah, I mean, my point in bringing that up is that like I don't think the barbershop banter has warmed up yet.
Right. It's you got to preheat that oven.
Yeah.
That's nature. Nature is returning, or whatever the fucking shit.
Healing, yeah.
Nature is healing. The barbershop conspiracy theories we're warming up. That I was just wondering if there was any hot takes on the NBA bubble, because that's the kind of NBA insight that I look for straight from the barbershop. No shit from ESPN.
There was nothing on that. I mean, I've been thinking about that myself because I'm going to say there's a better than 50% chance, in my opinion, that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too.
You think it's not going to start? I think it's going to start, and then it's going to be a disaster, and then it's going to shut down prematurely.
I think that like the things that I've been watching for reasons that are not really important is I've been watching what's like going on with like Disney. And I just was saying, like, right before this was all happening, I was like, Florida government's a piece of shit. Sure. And, like, they're going to do whatever they can to open everything as much as possible. So when Disney announced they were reopening, I was like, okay, bet, like, Disney's going to reopen. Like, it's going to happen. Like, they're going to reopen the park and, like, whatever the fuck happens, happens. And then all this stuff started
Let
spiking.
God sort it out, bro.
Absolutely. But all this stuff started spiking to a crazy amount. And then I was like, okay, well, now there might be just too much pressure for even Florida to even say, fuck it. And then yesterday they announced that like Disneyland in LA was supposed to open on the 17th and they're postponed indefinitely.
Who was it? There's some player.
How's Florida going to like justify opening Disney on July 11th when they can't open in California on July 17th? You know?
I mean, the calendar in Florida reads differently, but also like there's some player that's like, I don't understand what the rules are anymore because there's some player that tested positive, but is still going to Orlando.
Yeah, I saw that. I forgot who the fuck it was, but I think the idea is that they're going to go down to Orlando.
Jabari Parker.
Oh, they're going to
and Jokic too. Who's they're quarantining in Serbia and who before he comes back.
Well, Jabari Parker, I don't even know if he's like an import like
he's on the Kings, right? Or some shit.
Yeah. I mean, why? I don't understand it, but I think they're going to go to Orlando and like be in quarantine initially, like there, I guess. Like, I guess that's the plan. But I imagine that if you tested positive, you weren't going to come right away. But I guess I'm wrong about that.
The real question is, how is the side piece economy going to restart with the NBA being in this bubble? And the answer, I guess, is that, every player gets like a certain number of like, I don't know, entourage members, like team masseuses and like nutritionists and shit that they can bring with them.
Yes.
That's the real question.
The masseuse.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I have a question. How isn't it kind of wrong that like everyone's getting exposed for having, like, isn't there something that protects you from like having your medical information like just broadcast to everyone or no?
Yeah, it's what what's his name on the
What?
Yeah, I think it is, but it just prevents doctors and like insurance companies. But like if someone says I have COVID-19 or it's like they self make that new, like, you know what I mean? Like if they basically you're allowed to tell people you're sick.
So it leaked that Ezekiel Elliott tested positive, and then he just tweeted out, "Yo, HIPAA."
So you're saying that Woj bombs are illegal now when he's just telling? Is that what you're saying? Like, just the broadcasting of people's medical history is illegal?
I mean,
who knows,
I think
man?
It's fine as long as they got the information not from a doctor and not from an insurance company.
It's the new normal. But I guess so it's just interesting though that I guess to hear that the bants are mids in the barbershop that, we're not even talking NBA. It's just like talking
but
about
also make the banter that you want to see in the world, right? Like get in the barbershop safely and fucking, start up the banter economy once again.
The day this episode drops, I'm making my triumphant return back to Mildred. Shout out Rob. Shout out Paul for setting it up. They're reopening on Monday. So I'll report back.
Right.
To complete the fit check though, Rob, can't forget the panties. What panties are we, Rob?
Well, we need to ask about he never said what the brand of the glasses.
Dita.
Dita. He did. Sorry.
Yeah. No, all good. The Tommy Hilfiger boxer briefs, the classics, which appear to be inside out right now.
Nice. Hell
is that because they're dirty? Is it laundry day and you had to turn the fucking skid marks on the outside?
I will say
flip the skid like the script.
I gotta say I have nothing but time these days, so I have plenty of clean laundry. Luckily,
good. And are you regularly a briefsman?
No, not since I was maybe 12.
Wait, boxer briefs.
Boxer briefs.
Yeah,
boxer briefs.
I think that's what James meant.
Support and length. It gives you both.
Yeah. There's a graph, and those are what are on the two axes. Is support and
right.
length, the two most important elements of any undergarment, I guess. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Support and length. I think it's the axis.
I remember when you came on the previous podcast, It Shall Not Be Named, you had some hardware on, some gold. Are you rocking jewels in the house, or do you just keep it? Yeah, you had the tooth, or do you keep it hung up by the door, including the tooth?
The funny thing about that is,
he throws it in a bowl with his keys.
I don't wear the jewelry, and I put it in my vide poche. Just throw it on there with the keys and the phone. No, I don't wear the jewelry in the house, especially now when you're like literally just staying in the house. You're not having any visitors or any shit like that. But the weird thing about this, which I realized, is that the last time I was in the office, I think it was like March 13th. I think I remember because it was a Friday. And I left my gold teeth, which is like I got like a 2-piece on one side and a 1-piece on the other. I left them in my desk, and they've just been sitting there this whole time.
Oh, bummer!
They're probably like sentient beings now or something. Like I don't know.
They started their own society.
So I left my job during quarantine, and I FaceTimed with this dude off from the maintenance team, shout out Jesus, and he was like, "Yo, do you want this? You want this?" And I'm like, "He's like, do you want this? Memorabilia? Do you want this like kind of
memorabilia?"
Yeah, like, do you want this like merch? And I'm like, no, I don't want any of that. Yo, let me get those boxes of tissues though. Like, let me get that fucking wine that I left there from Dro. But I'm excited to see what has happened to your teeth. Just created a whole new fucking society.
Yeah.
Perhaps maybe when I go back, there'll be more of them. They've multiplied.
You're gonna come back with an iced out grill, dude. They've evolved.
Yeah, a whole top and bottom piece by the time
gold teeth don't die.
Yeah, the coronavirus baby boom extending to teeth jewelry.
Exactly. All right, Rob. Fit check complete. So I don't know if you're familiar with throwing fits. I know you listened to the Gimme Top Tyson episode from last week, but as you may or may not be aware, the 3 main subjects of this podcast are money,
ka-ching,
meats and cheeks.
Wait, Rob, you're a smart guy. Can I ask you a question? So we had this segment, right, called Dad Ass that we thought might have been offensive. Then we tried out fapping and clapping, and now we're doing meats and cheeks. Are any of these the least offensive to you, particularly?
Or like passable and like effectiveness?
Acceptable probably is the way I would want to phrase it.
I mean, I don't want to delve into why the first one was offensive, because maybe if you explained it to me, I'd get it. But I think that these are all fine names. To me. I think
the goal with like fapping and clapping and meats and cheeks is it's supposed to be all encompassing, no matter like if you're self pleasuring, no matter who your partner is, no matter what you're into, no matter what tingles your Pringle, as is said in the NewYorker.com. We're just trying to be all encompassing here.
Yeah, just normalize sucking and fucking.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's all we're trying to do.
Wow.
And the third topic, which is never going to change and is without a doubt the most important topic, Jimmy, Larry, ourselves.
The goddamn motherfucking boys.
And we're going to start with that topic because it is the most important. So you work on the Desus and Mero show, and just like us, their trajectory has gone from a complex show to a podcast to a show at a problematic media company. And now, unlike us, its current iteration exists as a TV show on premium cable. How do we follow in their footsteps?
Yeah. Feel free to just break it down real quickly for us so that we can get this shit popping.
Yeah.
I mean, if I knew, I would probably be on a premium cable channel myself. So I honestly don't know. But I think the first key is to be very talented. You guys
got to work on that.
You guys got moderately in tech. Like, you got a good base.
Sure.
So there's that. I think the key is to be talented. I gotta say, so I don't know if you guys know Victor. Their guy who he self-describes puts together Desus and Mero's deals. So shout out to Victor. He's a key component of, I think, that rocket ship that is Desus and Mero. I mean,
what is he, like their manager?
Yeah,
or like their biz guy?
He's kind of like the business guy. He doesn't like to call. I mean, shorthand, he's their manager, but I don't think he likes to say I'm their manager, because I feel like he's a humble guy, so he doesn't like to take too much credit for the shit that they're doing. But he's a really smart guy, and I think he's been helpful in like kind of guiding their careers and like the direction that it's gone in. So I think that like the second thing is that like you need to get good advice from the people around you. I mean, you guys. I mean, I don't want to get too into your business, but I thought you guys signed a representation deal recently, no?
We're on the 1 yard line. We're on the half yard line. It's first and goal with with power I formation, but we haven't scored yet.
It'll happen for sure. It's going to happen, but yeah, I feel like we don't have that consigliere type role though.
Yeah.
I feel like we need that.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So
It's surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, so you need to put Chuck between you and this new representation. You know, you got to have like your guy who's like the guy that they don't talk to me, talk to Chuck, like that sort of.
But don't talk to him before 12 p.m. because he's not up yet.
Yeah, he'll be sleeping. Yeah. You have to wait for him to have his morning blunt and coffee.
Yeah,
it is Fruit Loops.
yeah. Just tell him that Chuck's based out of Australia, so he's like waking up at a different time. His business hours are just different, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Man's business hours are different.
Yeah.
Every day is a 3-day weekend.
Exactly.
I like that. Wait, every day is a 3-day weekend?
Yeah. I meant week, but that sounds good.
Yeah. Maybe you are smoking too much weed.
Yeah. He squeezes 3 days of chilling into every day. That's how we should all aspire to live.
Chilling overtime, OT.
All right, so surround yourself with good people, noted. I guess kind of, adjacent follow-up is how do we get Jesus and or Mero on the show, on Throwing Fits, that is?
I mean, you guys know, you know those guys. But I will say that the hurdle to doing so is that they're incredibly busy. I mean, they do the show, and like now that we're like filming remotely, we're basically like working around the clock, like 6 days a week on just that, and a little bit on the seventh day. And then I don't know I think they've gone to like 2 podcasts a week when we went into quarantine, or like they were doing more episodes of that, and then they had to do their normal like press and media availabilities and shit. So I think that like I haven't really seen them on other podcasts like in a while.
So their side project, 2 podcasts a week, is what we're doing as our full-time thing.
Our main hustle, yeah.
That is called white privilege right there.
Or that they're playing chess and we're still playing checkers, and then eventually we'll get on the same board.
Yeah, we're playing shoots and ladders.
Yeah.
But you see the trajectory is the point. You guys see that you're on the path. So I think that's important.
But you said that right now you're personally off, right? You're on like a little sabbatical for
we're on hiatus. We're on hiatus. We're back on the air in July.
You're like a school teacher. All right. Forget Jesus Mero. We understand they're fucking A-listers at this point in our world. Let's talk about you, Rob. What exactly do you do at Jesus Mero?
So I work in the digital department. I run that department, and basically what we do is we're in charge of producing like original digital video and content for the show that's like a little bit apart from the show. So they're just different kind of things that you can find on YouTube, on social media, on Instagram, on IGTV, that sort of thing. We produce original content for those channels, and then we also manage the process of delivering like clips from the broadcast show onto the YouTube page, onto the social media page, like that sort of thing. So that's kind of like, we're kind of like a mini version of the television. We're a mini version of the production at large. So like the production as a whole has writers. It has people who, are editing stuff. It has like people who are in charge of getting the talent and booking the guests. It has all that. And then like within my department, which is a very small 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-person department, we have kind of all those functions kind of built into our department, like where we pitch ideas, we come up with like sketches and like topics for them to talk about. We shoot it ourselves, we edit it ourselves. Wow. We had the social media person make sure that it like goes up into the right places and like the right people see it, and keeps our channels going. And like we kind of like are like a very small television production company unto ourselves.
Since you guys are like internet first, are you kind of empowered or enabled to like be like a little like more out there and a little more crazy, since you're not like stuck within, the confines of like what a TV show is or should be, and it's still the wild fucking West. So like, I don't know, do you guys just get like zanier?
I think so. I think we're able to, because things that work on television and things that work on the internet are often different things.
Yeah.
So like, I think that in general, we're given a lot of latitude, and like shout out to everybody at Jesus Mero for like really giving us a lot of like autonomy to do like whatever we want to do, as long as the guys are like cool with it. And I think because like a lot of us in this department or like have good relationships with Jesus Mero like prior to this, that they feel comfortable like doing stuff with us and like trusting that like we'll make sure that like that that's a good product and that like we're not gonna make them look like jackasses, you know what I mean? So they like trust us. Like at least my what I perceive is that they trust us to like make good shit and like they trust our ideas. So like we have like pretty much carte blanche to do like whatever we want. Like we really just go directly to the guys and see what they're comfortable with, you know?
Is there a part of the process that you particularly enjoy? Like, is it pitching? Is it, I don't know. Like, what is it? Like, what is the part that really gets you going?
I mean, I just like the idea that like we can come up with ideas for things and like we don't have to go through a lot of like red tape before we actually just decide to shoot it. Like we'll come up with an idea and some of the times like we don't even necessarily have to pitch it like formally to Jesus and Mero. They usually are just like kind of like we in passing or like in the hall or like or via text message. You could just be like, hey, do you want to do this thing that we like thought was a good idea? And they'd be like, cool, let's do it. And we just schedule the time and we shoot it. So I like the fact that we can just like turn our ideas into like reality with like an extremely quick turnaround.
That is a huge blessing that no one should take for granted is like having minimal or no red tape from between ideation to execution. And something that I think Lawrence and I, and maybe some other people on this pod have like, struggled with or like been frustrated with throughout our careers. And then I think that's the best part about this pod is like, yo, let's have an idea and we just fucking do it.
Nimble, baby.
So it's amazing that you guys work in this like pretty, relatively large entity and are still able to kind of just like fucking freely wheel and deal your way into like making good shit.
Yeah,
for sure.
Coming back to us though, because this is a segment about James and Lawrence, how would we do digital video right? Like what's the first thing you tell us if you were just to like take control of Throwing Fit's digital department, and what would you do?
Foundationally speaking.
I think the biggest thing that like I've learned in this like process for like the season and a half and hopefully many more, the thing that I've learned the most is that like you really need like very professional look and feel people. So what I'm saying is that like you guys like, and this is the same thing with Diaz and Mero, you guys have the like talent portion like locked up. Like nobody can tell you, how to do what you guys do and like what to say and like how to be on camera and like you guys have your finger on the pulse. You don't need the help with that aspect of it. But when it comes to like shooting and like editing, there's just like a lot that can go into even an internet video or whatever, if you want to like kind of like dismiss it as that. But like, if you look at our like YouTube page, like the stuff that mostly goes through the hands of like my other producer, Tim, who's like does most of the like shooting and editing and understands like all this equipment. And there's also like a creative guy on top of it. Like he's shooting this stuff like he's shooting a movie. You know what I mean? Like he's like
a movie.
Yes, exactly. He's a filmmaker. And I think that like it's under that aspect of it is a little bit underrated because like you don't need a whole lot to like, because like most of what's going to carry you is obviously the content and like what you say and what you do and like what you're doing on camera, what you're doing on the podcast. But like the production values of a thing is kind of like what takes it to the next level and what keeps the focus on like what you're doing, what you're saying. What keeps the focus on Jimmy and Lawrence is that like everything is shot so beautifully and edited so beautifully and put together so beautifully that like your message is going to like come through like loud and clear and look great too. You know what I mean? I think that's the part that I knew nothing about going into this job. Like I knew very little about rather going into this job is just how much like taking the shooting and editing part of it seriously. Even if it's like a lot of our videos with Diaz and Mero are the two of them sitting in the office, talking about shit, And at the same time though, what you don't see is that like we've got 4 cameras running at the same time, different angles. We got a bunch of box lights in the background. We've like arranged the office in a certain way to like maximize how good it looks. Like we have wardrobe people who help us out too, that like dress them a certain way, that like make shit happen. We have like all this stuff that like goes into like a video that's just them talking for 2 hours about like knife fights in the Bronx. Like, yeah, you think that like, oh, that's just them. They just get in front of the camera and they're funny. And like, yeah, that's what they do. But like everything that we put around that is to like keep the focus on like how great it looks, how great it sounds.
Chuck, were you taking notes? Were you taking notes, Chuck? Because you are the video guy.
Yeah, lights and cameras, some action, right?
Yeah. But Rob, isn't that this idea that to an observer or a viewer that it just looks like any other day at the office, isn't that like that's the testament to how much work goes into it, right? And I feel like that's what people forget. Because like everyone can just do YouTube videos and like we get that, but like what that shit looks like and what like a professional operation looks like, even if that those two things are much closer, in 2020 than they would have been in the past,
Sure.
there's still like a ton of work that goes into that.
Yeah, I think, so, like you said, I think part of the reason why, I think part of what makes it good is you don't really think about it. You don't notice it. You wouldn't think about those things. Like you notice little flourishes here and there, but you wouldn't, like, the fact that you're not paying attention to like how it's shot or like what's like happening or how it was edited is like the seamlessness of it that like you have to put a lot of work into. I mean, and we do all that shit ourselves. Like literally, like the guys in my department, like we've all learned how to operate cameras when none of us did that before. Like when a few of us didn't do that before. Like I'm literally standing there, like holding a boom mic a lot of the time, like, and the fucking microphone box and shit. When we shoot stuff with DeSamero, like on our own, and like we just like we make a point to like utilize the like tools that we have and like really make it as professional as possible. But
I will never underestimate the skills of a lighting person and a sound person ever again for the rest of my life.
Of course. It's incredible.
I want to ask about the wardrobe real quick. So I remember reading an article that these guys they very intentionally were supporting Bronx-based brands and Black-owned brands. And this is like earlier in their career. Is that still the case, or now with like budgets being what they are, have they moved on to like I don't know, bigger and better? Not bigger and better, but just like more like flashier or mainstream jaunts?
I think that they still support like the brands and the people that they support. I don't think that's changed all that much. And I think that like the wardrobe persons that they work with, shout out to Satra and them, they definitely like kind of work in collaboration with them. Like it's not like she just picks shit out and like without any thought to like what they want to wear or what their like aesthetic and like personality is. Like it's a collaborative process because like the best people who do these, like the best stylists and the best wardrobe people and the best costume designers, like that's what they do. They like know how to like collaborate and like fit with what that person is about. And because these guys like have opinions about fashion and have opinions about brands and streetwear and that sort of thing, like I'm sure it's like a more collaborative process than it might be with other people. So I think they're still down for that. But I also think that like, and you'll see it more, I think, on Mero. Mero's definitely more of like, he's now like, in the like get money Mero phase of his life, where he's like talking about being in the Versace store and like doing the XYZ.
Bro, his chain gets thicker every episode.
Yeah.
He keeps adding another Cuban link. Like he's wearing like 3 Cuban links at once and 2 Jesus pieces. And I'm just kind of like, and like I go in the office with my 2 like paper thin chains. And he's just like, nice chain. He's like, Rob got the chain on. And I was like, when you do that, it doesn't make me feel good. It makes me feel like you're like patting me on the head and like
you're blowing up. I mean? That's good, fantastic, Rob.
Yeah, exactly. So
do you still when you guys are setting up the lighting and the cameras, do you still stand in for Mero because you have a similar skin tone as him?
Yeah.
Yes. So me and Paul still are the budget DeSamero stand-ins. And we sit in DeSamero's chairs. We still do that. I try to outsource that job to like some interns and production assistants once in a while because like it makes me feel good that like it makes me feel good that I don't have to do it, but it's fun still. It's still fun to do.
Yeah, you're like it's like the stunt double that does no stunts whatsoever.
Absolutely, yeah. It's great.
Real quick on their style, whose style do you fuck with more?
Ooh, yikes!
Not to pit,
oh really?
People against each other or anything, but
that's what it sounds like.
We are a John's podcast.
Yeah.
Ooh, which style do I fuck with more? You see, I think I have to. I'll no disrespect. The reason why I'll say this is I'll give Mero the slight edge because I think that like Jesus' style is like. I think it's like hard to replicate, which is like a testament to it. Like I wouldn't try. I think I would be more comfortable trying to dress like Mero than to dress like Jesus, because I think that Jesus is like very like he's very particular about like what he wears and like the brands, and it's less about like the flashiness of it. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure he wears some flashy shit and like some cool shit, but like it's definitely not like a main focus for him. Whereas like Mero's more of like, I'm having fun. I'm wearing the Gucci baseball jersey, like whatever. And I think that like, just as a personal preference, I relate to that a little bit more, you know?
Mero he's splashing with the drip. It's like a deliberate kind of loudness that maybe Jesus doesn't have.
It's like an intentional like overproduction. You know what I mean? It's like it's like gilding the lily, putting gold on top of gold. Like it's the more is more aesthetic, which I think I can
the Michael Bay method. Add a couple explosions on top of the explosion, dog.
Absolutely. It's like if Mero's outfits were an album, it'd be Watch the Throne. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah, it's just loud. It's a lot of Lex Luger. It's a lot of like loud ear rattling beats. Like it's just shit on top of shit, which I love.
How many sneakers does Jesus own? Do you know off top or have an idea?
Dude, he mentioned it recently, and I think he said something like with like 500, which who knows what that really means? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, serious. As you may have noticed, because we've been shooting this show remotely from their homes, like he has a sneaker room. He has a room that's also now the studio that he shoots in by Zoom. So he has a sneaker room, and like he started rearranging the sneakers in the background of his like room so that like they were like color coordinated and shit. And like he was saying it like takes him like hours and hours to do.
I also noticed some non-sneaker footwear in the Zoom call he had where CC Sabathia and Scott Van Pelt jumped on. I saw some like leopard print Wallies or some shit, which we appreciate as fans of the post sneaker world.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen him wear them, but
he has
one
them.
Day.
Well, listen, and this show, just own it. Just own stuff. Mm-hmm. We love people that own shit on this show.
Rob, besides making fun of your fucking twine ass chains, not ropes, twines, do they clown your style?
No, actually, I'll say this. Surprisingly, which you would think they would like roast me a lot for something, they seem to show me a little bit of more respect than I show myself. I'll put it that way. They are very gracious men. And they are very support the homies. Put it that way.
And also it's an occupational hazard, right? Like the roasts are strong. They're going to happen. You got to know what you're signing up for to some degree, right?
Oh, absolutely. I do have like a pair of those North Face like camping slippers, the puffy joints, the like North Face jacket for your feet type shit. I did wear those once, and I was wearing them at a shoot. Like we were shooting around the office, and we were shooting a video of them playing that fucking Untitled Goose Game, and we were shooting this. And before it, I actually still have this video on my phone. And before it, Mero like looks down, and he's just kind of like. He starts like looking at me. I'm like, oh shit, I think he's looking at my shoes. Oh shit, I think he's looking at my shoes. I'm like, fuck, I've avoided this for like months and months. He's gonna say something, and he's just like, yo, Rob got the West Indian landlord sneakers up in here. He's like, and then like, of course, that just cues Jesus up to start joining in and just being like, he's like got the nosy landlord neighbor shoes, and he's like. It's just like he won't let you slide on the rent, like, and it's just like it's cool though because like it's always in good nature. It's always in good nature, but like I also think that like Mero again is also like the person to be like if he sees you wearing some cool shit like that you wore and that you think is cool, he'll like point it out and be like, oh shit, you got the like the Richardson hardware tee that they don't sell anymore. You got the Supreme like track bottom joints. Like he'll definitely like shout it out like if he likes what he sees, and I think if he does it, he just keeps it to himself because he's a nice guy.
I love a little friendly gas up, just in passing in the halls.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do that more often with Chuck and Chef. Just boost team morale. I don't know. Yeah. Speaking of team, Rob, you told me this. You don't have any white people on your team. I really wish I could say the same. We're like 75% non-white over here with the core four. Is that an intentional thing or like a happy accident situation?
I think it's a little of both. In some ways. So like I work, as you guys know Paulie. I work with Paulie. He's one of my producers. He's like really the creative guy, like the main mastermind in the team of like a lot of the creative things that we're doing. So he does a lot of that work and a lot of the logistical shit. And then Tim, our editor, is Filipino, and I didn't know him. He applied for a different job. He applied for a PA job, I think, with the production, and then he didn't get it. And then they saw that he had some like editing experience, so they called him back to interview again for that job. And he was just kind of like, he's a great guy, and he's just like really good at his job, like really good at his craft, and a very creative guy as well. So that was kind of a happy accident because I didn't know him. And then we hired another like associate producer who's kind of like assists with the technical stuff and like the editing, Dean, who's someone that I interviewed for the job. And he's a guy, he's from Ohio, and he's a black dude, lives up in Harlem. And then we have Amelia, who's a very big on social media, like expert, who's running our socials, who's Cuban. And I only say that because like, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about diversity, and we have to normalize talking about diversity. Sure. So that's why I'm kind of shouting it out. So obviously we are very heavily male, aside from Amelia, but it's a combination of just kind of like happy accident, but also I think that our team is the least like TV experience. So like a lot of us have like prior relationships with like Diaz and Mero, with Victor. A lot of us had like prior things going on like social media and like other experiences. Like, Paul used to write for Lawrence, you know what I mean? Like, I used to do a lot of shit on social media. I still do. Amelia does a lot of shit on social media. I worked at Vice for a while. We all have like kind of these varied experiences where we were hired because like, this is a lot, again, Victor driving a lot of this. He was just kind of like, you guys are like creative people. Like the TV stuff you can learn, but you can't learn the creativity, and you can't learn like having a good working relationship with these.
Can't teach speed, that you can't. Yeah, exactly.
You can work on the fundamentals, but you can't teach like the athleticism. You can't teach tall. You can't teach speed. You can teach like the fundamentals, but you can't teach the innate talent that we all have in my department.
I think it's a great kind of like, anecdotally talking about this, like this is what if you take, and obviously all the stuff that you guys produce is hilarious and awesome. I think like, almost everybody listening to this right now would agree with that. And it's just like, take chances on people that maybe lack like the experience or like the pedigree that you think, what you would need for the role. And just like, get great people that are creative, like you said, and let them learn on the job. Right. Yeah. And I think that's hopefully something that like, more places employ moving forward, because I'm sure like we could all agree, like there needs to be more black and brown bodies on television. It's that simple, right?
Absolutely. And I think because like we proliferate this idea of like experience and pedigree, like with the intended or unintended consequence of that is that you're just going to be rehashing the same white people over and over and over who have had the opportunity to like have these experiences in their careers that like are just going to keep hiring that same group of people. And like, if you never take a chance on anyone new, they'll never get a chance to like accumulate that experience so that they can have it and that they can use it to like take the next step up. And like, I think that's like something that's like a huge problem that like maybe people are now starting to see a little bit of the light on, as far as like, it's not just about like, hiring because of like experience or like giving people a chance, but like generally speaking, the people who get a chance are the people who are already in these circles, and the people who already know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And these are all people who have had like a head start because they're white. You know what I mean? So I agree with you on that.
Do you think we're going to start seeing more black and brown faces, voices, brains, bodies on in the TV industry, not just on screen, but all throughout the whole industry? And I know you've only been there for like a year and a half, but it seems like the Diaz Mero entire staff is like, probably more diverse color-wise than most fucking entrenched TV shows and networks.
Especially when you talk about like comedy and like late night comedy, for sure. I'm sure. I mean, I know a lot of the other shows do employ like diverse workforces as well, and I don't know specifics to like shit on anybody else, but for sure. But I just think that like television is a very white industry, comedy is a very white industry. If you want to look at it that way, and like putting those two together, you just get white on white. So as far as there being more, people of color, especially Black people in television, in front of the camera and off camera, I think it will. I mean, just from my limited experience and my limited point of view, like I think it definitely will improve. And like this kind of like current moment of people like really opening their eyes to like racial disparity, to put it mildly, is hopefully something that will like raise all these issues across industries. Like hopefully people are taking this and applying it to like what they're doing in their work and what they're doing in their like in the entertainment field and like all those things. But I still think it's going to be like a slow process, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be people who are ingrained and comfortable enough to just reach out to the networks that they know, reach out to people who have the traditional experience that they usually look for. But I also see people making effort the other way. Like my sister sent me some job listings from a friend of hers that from Spotify, and like they're being very explicit in these job listings, or this person is at least, that like we're looking for more Black people to like fill these roles. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, seeing a little bit of that change in a small way, at least in like anecdotally,
Do you think that could be applied to television the exact same way? Just like, being explicit in job listings? Like, is there anything that, that you've thought about that could like affect change sooner rather than later?
Well, I mean, I think being explicit and like we talked about a little bit earlier, like normalize talking about race in like every context is like important. I think before, even well-meaning people before all of this, I think these people will continue to persist, think that like talking about race is like indecent, the same way that like talking about money is like indecent. But on top of that, I think that people feel like talking about race in terms of like hiring practices is like, even if you're trying to build a more diverse workforce, people take that discussion as if we're saying, let's hire more unqualified people, because like that in and of itself is like a racist like point of view. So like you got to like kind of divorce yourself from that thinking. And you also have to divorce yourself from saying, well, now I'm discriminating against white people. Cause I'm like, I'm sorry, that's like not like, that doesn't really exist in the way that people want to make it exist. You know what I mean? Like just because you say, I'd really like to hire some Black people for these roles, or some women of color, a trans person who brings a different point of view. Like part of like what people miss about diversity is like, and people are feeling the ramifications of this when we see all these kind of like weak corporate statements about like what's going on, is that like, if you don't have these people already in your employ, you have no one to talk to when shit like this happens. You have no one to check your ideas with when like you have to say something about what's going on in America right now. You have no one to go to who can tell you, is this insensitive? Is this the wrong thing to say? Am I focused on the wrong issues? Am I like understanding what's going on correctly? If you don't hire these people like for the jobs that are not to educate you necessarily, but for just the jobs and to be your coworkers and to be your managers and to be people who can like lead the charge on these kind of things, you're not going to have that point of view that just makes everything better. It makes your work better. It makes your product better. It makes how you engage with society and like what's happening in the world better. Like that's what diversity does. It's not about giving people a chance who don't deserve it. It's not about finding unqualified people. There are plenty of qualified people in television and entertainment who are women of color, who are Black, who are trans, who are queer, who can like do all these jobs and add that extra layer of perspective to everything that they do, that are so valuable, that are being overlooked because people are worried about discriminating against white people or discriminating or being selective or whatever the fuck. Like, that's just like something we got to move past. And like, hopefully this will like spark us moving past that quicker, you know?
I mean, I think that we talked about this a little bit, but I think that hopefully, 10 years from now, like you are now an experienced TV person. Everyone on your team who wasn't is now like in the industry. And when you branch out from here, you guys are going to be in like more and more positions of more and more power, where you're going to be enabled and empowered to like hire quote unquote unqualified people who are just like right for the role, but don't necessarily fit in the box of what a traditional, TV person is. which is
You're the
awesome.
new guard, right? Like
Exactly.
you and Paulie and everyone. This is the new.
Making inroads.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
But it still goes to say that the TV industry currently is, I don't know, 99.9% white or some, number up there. The Jesus and Mero show, its perspective, good amount of staff is black and brown. The everything going in, the culture it talks about is black and brown. Like, is there ever tension between the smaller show itself and the larger network that it belongs to?
I mean, I think with any like television production company network relationship, like there's always going to be like some tension, and like especially because the networks, just because of what they are huge corporations, are huge media conglomerates, are like they are literally quote unquote like they're the man that we talk about when like we're talking about like the institutions that control our country, control the economy, control what we see on TV, entertainment, how things are made, etc. They control the purse strings of like what allows a decent Mero to get made. So I think that like because of just like even when it's like well-intentioned people, even when it's like people who definitely support the causes we support diversity, love Jesus and Mero, want to put Jesus and Mero on the air, not just because they're funny and because they're good, but because of what they represent. Like there's always going to be tension anyway, because they're still a big corporation and there's so many things. And we see this with media companies in general and everything that's going on right now. There's just so many bad habits and like bad bureaucratic things that are just ingrained in these companies that are hard to change. Not for lack of trying necessarily, and not for lack of desire to change. Some of it is that, but it's just hard. It's just hard to be nimble, as you guys mentioned earlier. It's harder for them to really get with the program as fast as maybe we'd like them to do sometimes. And I think that's what causes the tension, which is not necessarily a negative tension, but it's like creative tension and friction and like learning.
It's inherent, right? Like it's easy to be like, oh, bad actors, that's the problem. But there's not bad actors that just have bad intentions that they don't know are bad either. And I think to your point, like these are just conversations that need to happen, or else like people just pretend like, oh, everything. Are you
able, Rob, because your team is like, digital and it's not necessarily the main product. And I'm sure that all the fucking suits are just like, oh, whatever. Yeah, you kids and your fucking tickety-tocketies like go crazy on the internet. Are you able to kind of like skirt by the oversight of like the man and the networks, or do you kind of run into brick walls or have to hop through hoops at all?
I think we definitely have to deal with our own like version of like red tape and like jumping through hoops and that sort of thing and bureaucracy and all that, because like they are just like, I think different from a lot of networks. Showtime is very invested in like having control over their social media and internet presence. So a lot of like production companies who work on these other shows, like, I don't know, like Samantha Bee, for example, is another show that the company that I work for produces. A different team, of course, but the larger company produces a different late night show. I think that they have like the production team has like kind of like full control over their social media channels. Whereas like it took us a while for us to get to that point where like Showtime would trust us more to have like more full control over those social media channels. So I think that like we have our own version of red tape, but it's not so much internal. It's more with the network, and it's probably like a little bit less scrutinized than like the broadcast linear product that's on TV. But we have to deal with our own things too. And again, not because of like bad actors, not because of like bad intentions, but because like corporations are extremely careful, extremely large, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of review of everything that's happening. They try to keep track of everything because they want things to be successful. But we have to deal with our own version of bureaucracy. So, I mean, it's a little of both. I mean, we deal with it fine, and we have good partners on the Showtime side that help us out. And they're well-intentioned people. I don't think that they mean any malice by creating these bureaucracies, No,
of course not. But I mean, going back to Lawrence's point, it's like, the only priority that a corporation or business has is profit. They don't care about, furthering culture, like being funny or creative. They just want to fucking make money. So like, they're going to do whatever. That's why you see these weak ass statements that are like just protecting the bottom line, not trying to actually, take action or repent or face any sort of reckoning.
Yeah. Every corporation is taking action, and you never hear what the action is because they just get the statement out so that hopefully we could just move on.
Where are the action items?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Rob, the show's been on hiatus for 4 weeks now. So what a time to be on hiatus. When you guys come back, obviously because, you already provide a black and brown perspective on current events and culture, but like, how will Jesus and Mero deal with the current repositioning of Black Lives Matter movement into the mainstream when the show returns?
I mean, I think that's an open question still, because I mean, I think it all starts with like what Jesus and Mero feel and like what they want to do. And I think that's like a complicated question. And obviously I'm not going to like sit here and try to answer that for them, but I think that it's something that they are, obviously they're very thoughtful guys, you know what I mean? So I feel like they are very much thinking about like, okay, well, how do we want to, be part of this in a very like public and visible way? Or what is our role in this? I think they're asking themselves those questions and figuring it out because as you might like, as anyone can see, like personally, they are invested in this, like, and being personally invested is a little bit different than like what your TV show does. You know what I mean? Or at least it's like a separate question as to like how you marry those two things, like how you reconcile how you feel about these things personally and the personal work that you're doing. And like, I think Jesus is like Jesus particularly like, he like contributes to a lot of causes even before all of this. And he does so like quietly and you only find out about it after the fact because someone told you or someone mentions it or whatever. So I think he's a very like socially like conscientious person and Mero's the same way. And I think that like they are already, and I think in anything that has to do with this show, it starts with them and Victor kind of like having a conversation about like what they want. And then when they decide what they want, then it's like becomes a conversation about like, how do we make that happen? How do we get the production team on board? And then it becomes a conversation about, well, how do we get Showtime on board? And I think that like, we're still trying to figure all that out. And and like, I think that like before we went on hiatus, right before and all this stuff popped off, like there already was talk about like how we're going to engage in like with this stuff and like what makes sense and like what kind of things do we want to highlight and how do we want to make not only things better, like in a public facing way, but also for our black and brown employees of the show. Like, how are things going to be better for us? Like, how are we going to feel like, empowered to like do shit and like to do good work and to feel good about who we work for and to feel good about the place where we work. Like our production team has already talked to us about that a little bit. You know what I mean? So I think it's just like a larger conversation that we're definitely having. But I think from my perspective, and this is my opinion only, I think it's a tough balance because one part of like entertainment, and I think especially because these Mero are who they are, because they are black men on TV from the Bronx, who didn't grow up like rich or privileged in that way. Part of what comedy and television does is like it entertains people and it like kind of like gives them like energy and like hope, and it gives people like a reprieve from a lot of like the terrible things that are happening in our world. So there's a fine balance between doing that and also like turning a blind eye to what's happening.
And to be clear, though, I feel like Jesus and Mero's comedy has never been like pure escapism, though, right? Because I think that
absolutely,
right,
absolutely. I think you're right about that. I think that's a good point to point out. I think just from my perspective, it's just hard to like know how much like, and I think they're so good at it that I think it's something that will come easily and natural to them. Like how much medicine do you kind of like slide in with the good shit, you know, with the shit that people want,
with the string
and
cheese.
Like, yeah, exactly. And I think that like they're the perfect messengers for this kind of thing because like, and I also think too that like right now like shit is going on and people are out in the field and like you guys mentioned last time, like Lucas isn't really in the field right now, for example. Like these people need rest and entertainment and like comfort maybe more than ever before and more than most people. So like, it's not just about escapism, but it's like, how do we like be a show that like the people who are out there, like working for change and like black and brown people who are feeling like the emotional heft of everything that's happening. How are we a show that like gives them something good that they can like re-energize themselves with it's not an escape, but it's also like a reinforcement of like how much we support them and how much we support what they're doing and how much we're here for them to represent for them publicly. Like, how do we do all these things? I think are like open questions. You know what I mean?
Have you guys talked about that already? Like had those conversations, or is that something that's going to happen when, things start spinning up a bit more?
I think we're going to have the actual conversations like in the coming week and like really talk about it, and it will be an ongoing conversation.
Sure.
But our executive producers on the show, they definitely opened the discussion already and said, these are the things that we need to talk about and figure out. And mostly it was really about, I think from their perspective, especially because, these are older, veteran, white television people. From their perspective, a big thing that they focus on in opening the conversation is that they want to make, their black and brown employees and people who work on this show and people who make it what it is feel good about what they're doing and feel comfortable and make sure that they're not.
That's the start.
That's the start. And they're not like replicating these harms that like we're starting to see are bigger issues. I think they're sincerely like trying to figure out what they're doing what they can do to be better. And I think that's like where it starts, but then it extends to what we just talked about here. How do you represent that in a public facing way?
I guess like outside of the internal Desus and Mero kind of staff and family, like does the show still face racism in the industry? Like whether it's just, eye rolling or like more explicit shit, like how does that manifest itself?
I think it does just because, and I don't want to say that it's a huge problem because it's been an easy enough thing to tune out in some ways and you kind of get used to it. But I think two of the things that make it particularly an issue for Desus and Mero, the show, and for Desus and Mero, the guys themselves, is that they are like very heavily on social media. And that's where like you have a direct line to like spew racist bullshit or whatever it is, to people. That's what people use social media for. You know what I mean? So I think because like they're so entrenched in that like culture and in that space, like, and the show is as well, we face probably a little more than that than some other shows. You know what I mean? And especially when it's like, whenever we've had AOC on the show, like people lose their shit.
God.
Oh, Jesus.
She drives people nuts. Like she just like people who would otherwise not even care about the show enough to like say something racist.
Has Trump ever mentioned Desus Mero or like AOC's appearances on Desus Mero?
He hasn't. I mean, I'd love him to. I love some free promo. The Philosopher
free clout,
Future.
dude.
Yeah. The Philosopher Future once said. I would love him to. I would love him to do that, but he hasn't. I think our biggest public-facing controversy we faced so far were from the Swifties. Not to reopen that, Taylor Swift gang.
Oh, that's right.
Really came for Desus and Mero for a while. I won't get into like it got pretty serious. Like they obviously Desus and Mero are like never scared of anything or whatever. But like the people around Desus and Mero were like, we need to like do something about this. Like these fans are like really rabid and crazy, and that like didn't go away for a while. So I think that like maybe Donald Trump mention would spark some of that, which I would welcome personally.
Has it gotten like has it ever gotten like actually, in your opinion, has it ever gotten like actually dangerous?
I don't think so, but like I think that it's just like whenever people on social media or like Stan Twitter or whatever you want to call it kind of like mobilizes in a way that like the volume of messages is so great, and like there are people that like clearly no one is like actually going to do anything, but they are threatening you. You know what I mean? Like verbally threatening you. I think that like it's just like it gets crazy and it gets inconvenient, and it's also unpleasant for guys who are like grown men with families and shit.
Have they ever tried to dox you? Like you, Rob. Have they ever been like, yo, this fucking senior digital producer works on Desus Mero. His address is, and then what's your address?
Yeah, but I feel like Rob, like, didn't you have controversies with people because of like your avatar, right? Thinking that you were white for a long time. Have we talked about this, right? You've had your own shit to deal with.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I never got too controversial, but it's so funny because like definitely a lot of people before, because like I never used to show my face at all on the internet for years and years, and like it's just like people. It's kind of like very similar to what Jesus did before me, because like he was kind of like that same kind of presence where he was like a faceless person.
A dog. He was a dog, Avi.
And he still has it. He still has it. He's still
There he is,
with
yeah.
it, which is cool. So I had a little bit of like pushback on things when people but it's mostly strangers who like think I'm white or think I'm actually George Costanza with a fade and AirPods. So they're like I've had strangers like tweet at me like that pic back to me as if like, you shouldn't talk. This is what you look like. And I'm like, are you fucking stupid? Like, but anyway, so I haven't had any like personal controversies that have like gotten so out of hand, and I'm sure Diaz and Mero have had their share, but it's not for me to speak on like what's going on with them necessarily. So it's all good. So I mean, I think as a show, we haven't had too many major roadblocks. So it's been going well.
Fingers crossed. Fucking Trump comes at the two kings. You know.
Yeah.
So you've been there for a year and a half. Like, what's the one specific, whether it's a segment or a project or, in the digital world that you're most proud of, that you can point to and be like, I fucking did that shit.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm trying to think about it.
What do you think? We're only going to talk about racism? Come on. We'll talk about John. We'll talk about John soon too, I'm sure.
I mean, we have a few things that we produced and just like I think a lot of the cool thing about like what we do is like, you come up with an idea and then like you figure out like how to overcome the limitations of like your idea, or like how to make it happen, how to like turn it from an idea to like a practical thing you do. And like one of the things that we've done with them is we've had them like we figured out like how to have them like kind of like play video games, not in like a live stream setting, but like we tape them playing like different video games, and we've been trying to do that. And like we did that first with like that Untitled Goose Game thing, and we did it first with and then we did it with like Def Jam Fight for New York. And like the logistics of like turning like that idea into something cool that like is visually interesting is like not just them like in a Twitch screen or something like that, was definitely like a cool thing. And like that was the first time that like we'd worked with like green screens. That was like the first time we'd worked with like different like streaming and recording equipment. So just like from a technical standpoint, like we're really like proud of that.
Problem solving.
Yeah, in real time.
Absolutely, exactly. You like you like take an idea and you're like, how do we even shoot that? Like, how do we even figure out like how to make this happen? Like, how do we record all this? How do we make it like funny and like figure that out? Though they handle most of that part.
Could we get them to play video games with Chuck? Because Chuck, I don't know if you want to announce to the world your personal passion project that's happening under the Throwing Fits umbrella.
Well, Mero's a big Warzone person, I'll just say. Before he gets
God.
Let's get it, dude.
Yeah,
Yo,
so I think he'd be happy.
I love Warzone. I'm trying to get the TF Twitch going. So, I mean, I would love to connect.
What is our Twitch?
Yeah.
What is our name on Twitch?
Throwing Fits Pod.
Throwing Fits Pod. Yeah, let's get some followers. Is that how Twitch works? I don't know. I'm not a nerd.
Well, first you have to unlock subscribers, and that's what I'm trying to do. So
okay, how do you do that? You just game.
There's a lot of stats you have to hit. You have to stream every day of the week.
What?
Like every calendar day. You have to have like an average
every calendar day versus.
So every 3-day weekend, you need to be gaming.
No. Not like every single day, but like you have to stream on like a Monday or Tuesday. That's what I mean.
Got it.
And you have to have like an average of so many viewers. There's some hoops. There's some
bureaucracy.
I plan on somersaulting through all of them. So
damn, fuck Jeff Bezos. You know the vibes.
Yeah, that too.
What about let's go negative, Rob. What's some shit you've done that was a fucking brick that you're just like ashamed of?
Me personally, I'm not ashamed of anything I've ever done in my life. So I mean,
you've never taken an L, no losses.
Hell yeah.
Not that I can recall. So I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed of anything that I've done, and I'm trying to think about it, but I feel pretty good on that. So nothing that I've done. I feel
no regrets professionally at all.
No, I mean, I would say the one thing I always say is that, like, I wish I had, like, kind of figured out a lot of this shit sooner. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the things that I wanted to do and, like, the career path that I wanted to take and, like, just different decision-making shit. But also, like, I also think that, I mean, and also we're, like, kind of in, like, the same age group. So, like, I think a lot of the shit that we're working on now, like, all of us, like, didn't exist when we were, like, 22 anyway. You know what I mean? So as much as I wish that like I had gotten shit started a little bit earlier and that I had like kind of like dropped out of the law thing a little bit earlier, like that's the only thing I point to. But also just like all the experiences I've had and like all the shit that I've like gone through is like all what makes whatever is happening now that's good in my life. Like that's what makes that happen too. So
Yeah.
I can't complain.
I mean, at its heart, Jesus Mero, you know, or not at its heart, but a significant portion of it is an interview show. Who's been your favorite guest that's come on the show?
I think I gotta say that like one of the best, most entertaining interviews, and he went like I think like the extended version was probably like 45 minutes. I gotta give it to John Mulaney. John Mulaney.
John Mulaney.
I gotta say, I am not the biggest fan of like stand-up comedy as like an art form at all. Like, I kind of hate it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, that's like one of the things that like it's a weird thing to say, but like I might as well out myself at
Wait, why? Why?
Do you hate laughing? Do you hate joy?
I like funny things, but I kind of hate comedy because I just think that like in general, like I like funny things and I hate comedy, and I say that because like there's so much bad comedy out there.
Sure.
Like, to the point where like I know there's good comedy too, and I know there's good stand-up too, and I understand that, and I understand the difference, and I even know some people who are good at it. But I just think that like there's just so much bad comedy, and like I don't know, as an industry too.
So what you're saying, Rob? What you're saying is there's a couple bad apples ruining it for you.
I mean, there's a couple bad apples that are ruining it for me. I mean, just like the police, right? Like there's a couple. They've ruined the police.
It's it's ACAB. All comedians are bastards.
Yeah. Defund the stand-up, dude.
Oh, well, yeah. Like, God, like defund improv comedy. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just one of my things. And I know that's like,
well, improv sucks. Improv isn't stand-up.
Yes. Right. It isn't, but it's all in the same family of shit, in my opinion.
Wow. Damn, dude.
I'm just saying that, like, I don't know, man. Like,
wait, how much bad? Why do you watch bad? Like, how much? If something's bad, just like I would just if there's like bad stand up, I would just like change the channel or like go to good stand up.
At this point, I avoid it, but I don't even need to watch good stand up at this point. Like the funny things will eventually filter their way to me somehow.
That's true,
and that's fine. Because even think about what Jesus and Mero do. Like Jesus and Mero are funny guys, and like they are considered in comedy. They might even be called or considered comedians. I've never really heard them refer to themselves as that, but what they do is like a lot different than what a John Mulaney does, for example. And I like John Mulaney, you know what I mean? And I think that he's genuinely a funny person. But I would watch them interview John Mulaney for an hour over even watching John Mulaney do stand-up for an hour.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's that kind of thing where it's like I would love to watch funny people talking to each other or listen to a podcast where funny people
I was going to say,
like,
I think there's
themselves.
Yeah. I was going to say, it sounds like you're a big podcast guy.
What about John Mulaney? What about John Mulaney got you going?
He's just
what about John Mulaney? John Mulaney with Jesus and Mero got you going.
He's just a genuinely funny person. He's not like one of these guys who's like trying to be like, yeah, like snapbacks and throwbacks and like all this shit, like trying to like kind of ingratiate themselves to Jesus and Mero, which like you kind of see sometimes, and I think they deal with it very gracefully. But you kind of see like people trying to like kind of like do this thing where they're like, I'm on a black TV show. Like,
right.
I gotta like,
who's the culprit that you
don't say Bernie. Don't say Bernie.
Not getting into it. No, Bernie definitely was not that. Bernie somehow got older and more Jewish. Like, like old. He was just like more. He got more New York, if anything.
What were the sneakers that they showed him? And he's like, what? These are going for what?
yeah.
They showed, I think they showed him.
It was Off-White Jordan 1s.
They showed him those. They also showed him, I think, the Red Octobers.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
I think that's what it was. I think they showed him the Red Octobers last because that was like the biggest price tag one. And then they had a guy, shout out to, I believe his name is Sparks Customs. They had him make a Bernie Sanders New Balance shoe, which you can find pics of online and video of online, which is pretty cool. But he did not like sneaker shopping with Jesus and Mero.
So you're obviously not you're too professional and too good of a guy to ever call out a guest who was really hamming it up in a performative way. But has there been like a least favorite that you want to share?
That interview hasn't aired yet and probably won't, and I'll just leave it at that.
Wow. Ooh. So something was so bad that it got wiped.
No, that's not why it got wiped. Oh. And I'm not even sure that it is wiped. It's just like other reasons and like logistical things. But there's definitely I just think, and again, it a little bit has to do with like this comedy thing where like I think that like people are a little bit intimidated in some ways because like these Samara are funny guys. But more than that, it's just very much like I'm on the cool black TV show, so I gotta like relate to the kids and relate to the like the hood, you know what I mean? And like
Joe Biden. Like, it was Joe Biden.
It wasn't Joe Biden.
He got interviewed already.
He got interviewed, and I watched the whole thing in full, and you know,
he definitely started talking jive at the very end.
Yeah. As George Costanza said, he was bebopping all over the place. A little bit, but it wasn't egregious. It was more like, that's something you would expect of someone running for president. You know what I mean? In some ways.
Yeah, pandering? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he was in the acceptable political pandering scale of it. It didn't feel scummy and racist. You know what I mean?
That is a true occupational hazard, actually.
I mean, I was obviously I was looking for a reason to hate him even more. So like I latched onto that, but he was clearly just kissing hands and shaking babies. Who would be your dream celebrity to have on the show, or not celebrity, guest?
Dream guest to be on the show. Let me think. Again, I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry. I told myself I wasn't going to do that.
Future?
But Future, I think, is interesting, but I also think, because like we tried to do something with him and it fell through. Huh. We had it almost ready to go, and we actually ended up because we were going to go to Atlanta and shoot a couple things, and he was going to be one of the things. They were going to go. I guess it's okay to say this. I mean, they were going to go to a basketball game with him. And we got into some logistical issues with the NBA, who initially approved the idea. And then I think we had some logistical issues with it. But we ended up getting some good shit in Atlanta anyway, because we went down to interview Missy, which was incredible. And she was one of my favorite guests because, again, so very cool, like a legendary person who's done a lot. Just like, I don't know, there are people that you can't really say anything about because like, saying it would be underselling it, you know what I mean? And Miss is definitely one of those people. So I would love to do some more stuff with her. I think she'd be great because I think she's a true icon. She's a brilliant musician, but she's also just like very funny and kind. And I think that comes across.
She's this past year, I feel like, has kind of come out as a very funny online personality and done shit like we had Guap Dad on in I guess February or whatever, and she had just like been going back and forth with him, and it's one of these people that you don't expect her to be like so good at the internet, but was clearly just kind of lurking in the background and came to the fore for whatever reason, like right now. What about Jason Alexander?
Jason Alexander is interesting because I feel like now when people interview him, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like he talks a lot about how like Seinfeld kind of like fucked up his career a little bit. Because like obviously it was this huge hit, but like he had a hard time, I think, getting out of like being typecast and like doing other shit. I think he was on that Amazon, the Maisel shit, right? He was on that. I was pretty sure.
The Marvelous Miss Maisel?
Yeah. He was on that. So again, he probably was a little bit typecast considering the content of that show. But I don't know if he would be that fun, but it would be interesting to see the dynamic between him and like Jesus Amaro, like doing. I just
meant with you just being like, oh yeah, what up? I'm young Costanza.
The only moments where I've had like weird, like I wanted to like go up and like introduce myself to that person and like wanted that person to know who I was I met Steve Buscemi at like an awards show.
Fire.
And I think that was just like a great fire. Like, I'm sure after this, we're going to find out that he like is secretly in the Klan or some shit.
No, don't say that, dude. Don't fucking bring that into existence, motherfucker.
I'm just scared to say anything good about white people right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
He's a good guy though. I think that he was profiled like his wife died and then he kind of like He just became this like hermit that just like painted in his fucking parks all brown.
You talking about the GQ profile?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fire. What
And
do
he's
you have a
still doing good
favorite?
work.
Do you have a favorite Buscemi like role?
Were you able to meet him at the award show? What was the interaction?
I was just able to like go by and like shake his hand and say like I'm a huge fan, which I'm like clearly like not. But
He's not in The Usual Suspects, by the way.
what a movie am I thinking about that he was in? Holy
Fargo?
Con Air.
Think of Fargo?
We got to do this. We got to edit this to make me look less stupid. But like, we're gonna take a moment right now to like go through Reservoir Dogs. What the fuck am I saying? Yeah, that's the movie I was thinking about. Reservoir Dogs is great. He was incredible in Boardwalk Empire, which I think is an underrated show. Fargo. Yeah, you see, I know Steve Buscemi. I just got a little. I always confuse Reservoir Dogs and Usual Suspects.
Is he? Because obviously he has a very unique face, but I've heard that he's actually handsome in real life.
Ooh,
is that wrong?
I think he's because I think people would say, like you said, he has an unusual face, or he's like kind of like a fugly guy or whatever.
Character actor.
He's a character actor. He's a very normal looking guy. I think just by Hollywood standards, he's probably a uggo, but like, I think that's like what goes back to saying about like all the shit that goes into like filming something to make it look normal. Like when you watch a TV show and you see someone who is like conventionally attractive, but not like movie actor attractive, you notice it. Like all the girls that get converted into like who start out as the nerdy girl at high school who become like the beautiful swan that emerges at the end of the movie, they're already beautiful at the start because that's as much as we can handle watching TV. Like I don't know at what point in the world we decided that in TV and movies we couldn't see regular looking people in like large numbers because it's like offensive to us, but now it's like jarring. Now if you see a normal looking person, it's jarring, but any actor that's been in more than two things is good looking. And
I believe the New Yorker has it on record that me and Lawrence are just two average looking guys.
Yeah. But we're hotter in person, and you'll see when you meet us. I guess if anyone is listening and wondering,
I think their fact checker was drunk when they were doing that one. But Rob, so you mentioned this. You've been on break for the last 4 weeks. I don't know. Like, you had the best fucking job of all time. What have you been doing all day?
What have I been doing all day? A lot of like following the news for better or worse. So there's that. A lot of like staying in the fucking apartment because I'm just like, it's ever since all of this started, even with this break, like I've probably been out of my apartment like half a dozen times, or so. Yeah, my girlfriend does all the grocery shopping and shit. And like, she's now started like working her studio a little bit, here and there because she's like by herself there so she can like stay away from other people. But like I've been in and out of the apartment, not that much. And I don't mind it. Like, I'm okay with that. But
what neighborhood do you live in?
Downtown Brooklyn.
Oh, that's right, near Lucas.
Yeah. He lives on the next street.
Have you been? So you've been linking with no homies? Or?
No, I haven't. Not virtually, I guess, but like not in person because like I'm not that freaked out by all this, but I also now have gotten to a point of like self quarantine where like I don't really know how to be around other people. Like, like I don't even know what people are doing out there. Like, I don't know what social customs are anymore. Like, I just don't
You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing.
You've divorced yourself completely from society, and you're going to enter back in at some point in the future. But as it stands right now, you're fucking on lockdown.
Stay still 2020. Yeah. Stay still 2020.
Pretty much. And I think that like that's okay because like in some ways, like I think like completely isolating myself would be a bad thing, obviously, but like it's kind of nice to like take a break from like all the social shit because like it's all good and important and I love being around people that I love, but it's also like sometimes it becomes like noise and like just more clutter and like it's good to take a break. Like I'm ready to like actually be social again and like see people and shit, especially like now it's just like it's hard with everything going on to like, there are bigger issues, but like togetherness is like a big thing that's like lacking in most of our lives right now in like a very difficult time in our lives. So I'm definitely ready to get back to that, but at the same time, I'm okay.
Speaking of the bigger issues, have the recent protests and calls for change you haven't been out protesting. That's fine. Everyone, engage with this stuff differently. Has the massive social upheaval in the past few weeks, has that kind of relit your inner fire? And like, how have you been getting active?
I think it has, because like in a lot of ways, it's bringing like a lot of issues to the forefront. Not police brutality, not even police violence and all those things. Like, I think we're all, especially living in New York, all of us, like, we're all well versed in like how fucked up NYPD is and how fucked up like just the concept of policing is and how it's actually executed. Like, we understand that's fucked up, but like I think that all of this has sparked a lot of like good new learning for me and for all of us, like about like what prison abolition means, what it means to defund and abolish the police, like a concept that like I probably didn't hear of as called this, and I might even be kind of like misdescribing it a little bit, but just like the concept of like mutual aid as like a larger scale thing that we can do as a community, that we don't need to like depend on large institutions and large charities and like 501c3 bullshit.
Someone said on Twitter, my homies are doing a better job at redistributing wealth than the government.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that concept is like so crazy, and like it's opened my eyes to that, even though I know that like academics and activists have been like talking about this shit for a decade. You know what I mean? Like have been talking about abolishing the police for decades. And like now this conversation is like a little bit more in the mainstream, and we can now look at it as like a legitimate like goal and not like a pipe dream or something that's like an extreme position. Like, I think that's kind of like what's opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I think that like mutual aid has been such a, like the concept of it at all, like whether it's giving to a small organization, whether it's giving to a larger charity, whether it's giving to like someone, that is like having trouble, like making the rent or like, feeding themselves because of like everything else that's going on beyond the protest, beyond the racial shit, like that, like spirit of like community and being part of something larger and just being able, and like, I'm lucky I've been employed through this whole thing pretty much, you know what I mean? So like basically saying like that this just like mutual aid, and also this idea that like all of us have a role to play, and there's always something that you can do as an individual to help the like overall larger movements. Like it's such a like a blessing to like, is like, I think the biggest good thing that's come out of like a lot of pain and a lot of violence and a lot of death and a lot of fucked up shit. Like I guess like communities realizing their own power is like, what the big takeaway from all of this is, what I'm getting and what makes me feel hopeful about shit.
Speaking of fucked up shit, like you've worked in the media, and obviously I'm sure you've been like keeping up with the media reckoning that's happening with all these publications. Are you surprised at all? And like, what kind of shit would you throw out there to maybe like, have that conversation about changing things there for the better?
I think media companies suffer from a lot of the same shit that like we talked about earlier when talking about like television networks and just like large corporations in general. It's not to excuse it and not to make it like okay, but like the racial problems and like the lack of diversity and the lack of like valuing Black people, and like the conversations around like profiting and taking like Black art and like Black culture, and like being able to do that on one hand and being able to like dismiss and mistreat your Black employees with your other hand, like all those things are like just larger symptoms in like how we do business in America. You know what I mean? It's not, and again, that's not to like minimize these specific racial issues, these specific gender issues, that like these specific like harms that like people face by working for these companies, you know what I mean? And like by how things are done. But it's like, it's a larger problem in like every industry, and media is just like, I think such a touch point for all these problems, because media is supposed to be this like liberal, well-meaning, like we love Black culture, we love music, we love diversity. It's supposed to be kind of like a feel-good industry, but
that's the grift. That's the grift, baby.
That's the grift, exactly. It's like it has all the same problems, and sometimes maybe worse than like an Amazon has. You know what I mean? Like, except that like they're lying to our faces about it. You know what I mean? So I think that like it's,
hey Alexa, hire more Black people.
Yeah, I mean, it starts very easily. Like why is it have to be a thing that people are fighting for to get paid the same, to get same opportunities as people doing the same jobs? Like, it's crazy. And I think that media is just like reckoning with this now, because like the thing that makes media powerful, and it's like dissemination of information and how they can portray this like favorable stance on like Black people and Black culture. The flip side of that is it's very easy for media savvy people, social media savvy people as well, to like shine the light on them and point out the hypocrisy. And like
speak truth to power, you know?
Right. And because that hypocrisy exists in media in a very specific way and in a very public, very easy to see, very visible way, that's why they're getting their asses handed to them. Because like, it's like, and to say getting their asses handed to them is kind of light, because who knows what actually is going to happen after all of this.
Sure.
Like, there is no after, but like, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows if steps will be taken? Who knows who's really going to like heed the message and who's going to just kind of wait till this all dies down in their mind? Like, who knows what's going to happen? But
are you optimistic?
I am cautiously optimistic, I'll say. I think that, like, again, I think the bigger thing is, regardless of what corporations decide to do, regardless of like what a lot of the people in power want to do, regardless of the people who don't support like these movements and like don't see the issues that are right in front of all of our faces every day, again, I'll say that like communities, everyone, are like realizing that we don't need these people to like make shit happen. Like, we need them to an extent, but like we're not gonna like have a media company's inaction on this stuff stop us from acting, from giving, from mutual aid, from like promoting the right causes, from speaking truth to power, and for publicizing this shit. You know what I mean? That's not going to stop us just because the XYZ company is not going to do anything about this shit. You know?
Your gatekeepers are washed. They're irrelevant.
Right. Absolutely. We can do this shit ourselves. We don't need the government to do shit for us because they're not doing shit for us. We don't need like these corporations to do shit for us. We're asking them to because it's the right thing to do, and it will in the long run help them as well. But if they
hey, where are the quarterly report and the shareholders report? You know, where's the line for that? So unnecessary.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what we've been preaching. Like, don't expect these motherfuckers to do the right thing. They will not do it. They have never do it. They've never done it. Excuse me. So you have to do it yourself. That's the thing.
I don't got friends. I got shareholders.
Right. And if they do make positive change, like, good for them, but like, don't expect it. Don't like wait for it.
Yeah.
Don't let that be the cause of your inaction because you're waiting for somebody to change their minds or to do the fucking right thing. Like, that's like not a reason to like change what you do in your everyday life as one person.
Yeah. Hold them accountable, but like be realistic. And obviously I think this idea of taking the power into your own hands and doing what you physically yourself can do, or maybe not physically, but anything that you can do. I think that is the path forward. And it seems like more people are realizing that now than ever before, which, you know, if anything comes out of this, that is an amazing paradigm shift in the thinking of people. That is impressive. At least good people.
We shall see.
Absolutely.
Rob, you're one half of the best DJ duo in New York City. No losses. Let's talk about the racism that kind of piggybacking off what Lucas mentioned last time. Obviously, racism is rife in the nightlife space. How has it manifested itself in your time DJing with No Losses?
I think it's probably manifested in the same way that you might expect. Like, a lot of it happens at the door. You know what I mean? And I don't think that. Yeah, exactly. And I think that like it's a little bit strange because, or like seems a little counterintuitive because, like, obviously, oftentimes the guy working the door is Black or Latino or, you know, a person of color or whatever. And you think that like that might make a difference. But I think that's like kind of a weird thing to say about that is that like that like relationship or that context of like the door of like some club or bar or whatever the fuck, like it kind of mirrors like what happens in America at large. We're not saying that like the big problem is individual bad actors, individual racist people or like bad meaning people. It's the systems and like the structures that like these people are hired to uphold. And in some ways, the doorman is a microcosm of that. The doorman is like supposed to be like, it's like that shit in that fucking movie where the guy was like, he's only allowed to let in like 1.5 black people every night at the club. I think he was fucking knocked up or something.
Yeah, it's knocked up. Or 40-year-old virgin? No, knocked up. Knocked up.
I was wondering which one of those two was too.
Craig Robinson.
Yeah, it's Craig. Yeah.
Exactly. So like,
was Steve Buscemi in that?
Steve Buscemi was also in that. You know, he played Nookie Thompson.
I did it all for the Nookie Thompson, baby.
Yes, exactly.
So how do we? So if it's a symptom of the larger system, like how does the larger system help eradicate racism and empower black creatives in the nightlife space?
In the nightlife space, it's tough because, like, again, it's kind of has the same issue that like media companies have, where like, all right, like they are down to hire, black DJs to play black music, and like they're all good on that side of the equation. But then when it comes to like how you treat your black patrons, like that's an issue. When it comes to how you pay your black DJs, that becomes an issue. Like, and I can't say that like some of these issues don't happen to other groups as well, as far as like maybe, and like nightlife specifically is kind of like a notoriously, at least by reputation, a notoriously like scummy business.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So like, and for whatever reason, I won't speculate on like why that is, but like that's just like what it is. You know what I mean? So I think that like, again, it goes like to who you hire and who you manage, and like how you see these things as just not like how you see a dress code that's like loosely enforced or like selectively enforced, or how you see cultivating an exclusive feeling door are like not really the priorities that they once were, or they shouldn't be. And I think it takes like people who are in nightlife, people who have the capital to open clubs and to open restaurants and to open bars and to like venues that like book DJs and like book acts or whatever, to really look at like these priorities and these kind of like antiquated ways of doing nightlife that come from, these fucking people thinking that they're Ian Traeger, or they're,
these fucking people.
Yeah, that think that they're the new like Studio 54 or whatever, right. And like they saw the Studio 54 documentary once and like got a fucking hard on over it and like started being like kingpin nightlife dickhead. That's old shit. Like that's just like you're not gonna get the Zoomers when they're of age to like come to patronize your fucking business. You know what I mean? And I think if they need to look at it as a business decision to make them do the right thing, then look at it as a business decision,
I mean, it goes without saying that, nightlife has pretty much been on hold for a minute now, which is, put a pause on no losses. So just, speaking about just the no losses duo, like what's next for you guys? What do you have planned when shit opens back up again? Say in a safe manner.
I don't know. But again, like when it comes to a point, and like, obviously it's like low priority, but like if it comes to a point where like whenever that point is in the future, when we can like be DJing again and doing shit, I would just like love to do it because like I missed that experience. You know what I mean? Like I miss like hanging out with my friends and like playing music, and like that aspect of it is literally like what's good. It's definitely not the money, because like there's not a lot of it in there, and it's definitely not like
you're saying it's not the net 90 checks.
Yeah, exactly. It's like fucking freelancing for these media companies. It's like I gotta wait 90 days for you to send me $100 check. Like
I gotta wait till next season.
Yeah, to get my drink tickets.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and meanwhile, you didn't even give me any drink tickets, so I already spent whatever you were going to pay me anyway. I gave it right back to you. So just keep the check anyway.
Are there any venues particularly that have done great by no losses that you're like really excited to start spinning in again, or spinning at rather? Like let's shout out the good guys. When things open up, where should we be fucking partying, Rob?
Yeah, what's a big gas slapper?
Yeah, my G.
I mean, I haven't done anything Lucas has done more with them than I have, like as an individual. But like Elsewhere Space was always great in Brooklyn. Nowadays as well has always been great. Like I don't know if they've had like any issues that I'm unaware of, but I know that both those places tried to be very much like community oriented, community spaces, and like they try to do the right thing, which is better than I can say for a lot of places. I'll say that much about it. Yeah, I think that like those are the two places that I think more than anywhere else that I've been kind of have nailed it as far as like how they operate as a business that's like public facing and how they operate as a business that like caters to people of color, to queer people, that sort of thing. Like it's just not like, and I think it's hard. I don't know for what reason, but it seems to be hard to replicate those kind of things in nightlife, or it had been. So I hope that they like that those businesses like survive all this and like come back with the vengeance. And I share that like because of like everything that's going on right now, they'll come out with some. If they're still around, they'll come back with like some new renewed focus and energy on like everything that's happening.
Is playing music with friends, for friends, what you miss the most about pre-quarantine life? And if not, I would love to know what you're kind of jonesing for the hardest right now, even if you're kind of like okay with being cooped up in your fortress of solitude.
Newt to cooped up.
I think that's definitely one of the top things that I miss for sure. But I also think it's just like being around people. Like I think is the hardest part. Like because even if you do meet up and you do things, like you can't kind of like be around people in the same way that you're used to. Like you can't really make plans in the same ways that you used to and like do the same thing. So like
can't smooch the homies.
Yeah,
right.
Tough.
Exactly. So I think I just can't. I miss that the most. And also like, which is like a petty thing, all things considered, I miss like getting dressed and like wearing clothes and going outside and people seeing me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just like, I have so many.
You can go grocery shopping with your girlfriend, Rob. You know that.
I mean, I could, but like, you know, I just,
yeah.
Like,
did you have
wasting the fit on that? Like, at least she gets to see me and like, I can do that. But like, it just seems like I'm wasting the fit on grocery shopping at like a limited capacity grocery store. So I'm not getting the eyeballs. I'm not getting the ratings that I'm used to getting.
You want asses in the seats. I get it.
Right.
Did you have fits saved up for the summer?
I didn't really, but I think early on when this was all starting, before it even was really a thing, like in the very beginning of March, I was like, damn, I can't wait till like it gets a little warmer out, you know, all this shit and like all these things or whatever. I didn't have anything really saved up, but like at the beginning of all this, as one does when you're bored and cooped up, you start shopping a little bit online and you do a little bit of that. And then you get the stuff and then you're like, all right, can't wait to wear this when this will be over in a month, hopefully. I can't wait to wear this. And then you realize that this shit ain't going to be over for a while.
Yeah. Damn, so I better start getting some winter clothes.
No, literally, like some of the shit that I have or that I've purchased is like shit that I wouldn't even be wearing right now anyway, because I feel like summer's a little bit canceled and like the year is a little bit whatever. Next time I'm out wearing clothes, it'll be. I saw somebody tweeted that like because of all this, he was like, my shoes probably think I died. Like that's how I feel. I was just like looking at like my shoe rack over there, like longing to wear shoes and like be dressed.
Besides getting a fucking gigantic fit off, what is the first thing you're doing? Let's just say that there's a vaccine, everyone gets it, COVID ends and outside opens back up tomorrow. What's the first thing you're doing?
Oh man, what's the first thing I'm doing? I mean, again, petty things that we've been deprived of that aren't important in the long scheme of things. I definitely am going to like go out and get a meal at a restaurant, like get a lavish meal, eat good, go out afterwards to a different location, drink good, go out to my third location, be out all night. Like I would love to just have like one big night out when like shit is safe to do that. Because like I think
how Rob got his groove back.
Right. Leading up to all this, I think I was scaling back on that shit because I was just like, it's just like the natural flow thing. Not permanently, but just like, you know, you like kind of were chilling or like you're busy with work and like you're doing different shit and like your life is changed a little bit. So you're like not really doing stuff and like maybe opportunities aren't presenting themselves in that way. But I would love to do that. I would just love to like be out. Like going out is like a thing I would love. That was one of the first things I would love to do. I would love to go out and be out. Like,
do you have a restaurant in mind? Like, or a bar in mind?
I don't have a restaurant or bar in mind, but I would love to go party at Elsewhere Space. I would love to go to Nowadays, which is out deep in the fucking boonies of Brooklyn on that Queens border anyway. Like, so I definitely am committed to, like, that's how much I want to do this, that I would go out there for this shit. I don't have a specific restaurant in mind, but I live near a lot of good restaurants in the neighborhood, like neighborhood spots like Henry Public and like, Chamois, like a couple places along Atlantic Avenue. Like I like those places, and I'd love to sit down in them again. So go to like the local spots that like I'm used to going to.
When you start DJing again, what is the first song you're going to throw on?
Fuck, I was thinking about this the other day, even though it's like kind of like an old, it's like not that new or whatever, but my dad gave me a USB key that's full of like old, very dad-like, but also modern, like soca and reggae songs, like hundreds and hundreds. So I've just been like going through this, which is great because like he has great taste in music. So I've just been going through all the like dad jams and like try to figure out how to fashion something out of those. So I'm just like I'm definitely pulling up with the West Indian West Indian representation when I get a chance to. I'll say it that way.
Yeah. That West Indian smoke, dude, and everybody can catch it when Rob is on the fucking ones and twos, dog.
Exactly. Besides kind of re-educating or familiarizing yourself with like the dad soca reggaeton, how have you like self-improved at all during quarantine? It seems like you've kind of been in the crib, just thinking about a lot of shit, learning about a lot of shit. But like, how else have you kind of like become a better YC, if at all? Or maybe you haven't. Maybe you're just trash. I don't know.
Fucked up in the crib thinking about things.
Yes, thinking about stuff. I think that like when this all first started, like in early March, like I tried to like not get in that mind state of like, okay, we're going through this quarantine, we're going through this situation. Now I have to read every book and like see every movie and like learn Spanish, and like I try not to get caught up in that because like I think it's very easy when you suddenly have time on your hands to like overwhelm yourself with all the shit you think you should be doing. And I tried very hard not to like do that when this all started. And I think that like I wanted to be able to like use my time productively, but I think just like the focus on productivity in general when we're going through a global pandemic, and now when we're going through like I don't know what you want to call it, a racial awakening for a bunch of people who clearly like didn't know or didn't understand what was going on all this time. Like productivity should be something that we shouldn't pressure ourselves or other people to worry about. So, and I started out with that mindset, and I kind of stuck to it. But then as it kind of like extended on further and like lasted a little bit longer. One of the things that I just tried to like get a handle on, which I think is like, it's everyone's personal choices. I try to get a handle on like just like eating better and like cooking and like eating healthier and like trying to look and feel better for myself. And like it's just a good time to do that because it's like you have so much like you're so quarantined away that you have like a lot of control over like what you're doing, and like I've tried to like exercise and like do that sort of thing. So like that's really the only thing I was focused on, which is like kind of like a weird thing to say because it's like I feel like basically the long and short of it is like in this quarantine I've like taken time to dedicate myself to vanity. It's like it's just like sure. But it's health. It's really a health thing, but it's also just like you don't look good and you don't feel good and like that sort of thing. I'm just trying to get my head around that aspect of life because it's like it's easy to focus on that right now because it's like literally something that you have total control over while you're in quarantine. So yeah, I've just been focused on like eating better and like exercising.
Yeah, that's betterment.
Yeah. Play good, get paid good.
Yeah, I don't think that's vain, you know. I mean, I get that there's you know elements of that, but yeah, I mean, Rob, if this show is about anything, it is about self-improvement, it is about self-betterment, and it is about fucking friendship, baby.
Absolutely, and I think that's a good thing to be about, especially right now.
And we're all friends here, Rob. So why don't you fill us in on what trash behavior you've been exhibiting during quarantine?
Yeah. How scummy have you gotten?
Yeah.
At your worst.
How do you suck?
How do I suck? Obviously, I mentioned this a little bit earlier. The consumption of marijuana has gone.
Ooh.
the marijuana stocks are buzzing by me, my consumption alone.
Damn,
Roger, Roger that.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Charlie are economies unto ourselves.
Scale.
You know what I mean?
Economies of scale.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
How do you consume your marijuana?
Yeah. What's the play?
Call me old fashioned, but I like to smoke it.
Papers?
You know? Yeah,
Flour?
papers.
Flour?
I usually do papers. I sometimes do the little glass pipe.
Oh, wow.
You know, a little lazy. Do that. I started making edibles because, like,
Oh, you make them?
what else do I have to do? Yeah, I make edibles sometimes. So that's the easy thing to do because, like, I live with my girlfriend and she doesn't love, you know, the stench of smelling and looking like an opium den in the apartment. So, so that's all good. So we like to imbibe with the edibles.
What was the most delicious thing that you cooked?
We usually just make cookies. We keep it classic chocolate chip cookie.
Nice. Okay, can't go wrong there.
Is it hard to control the strength of making your own edibles? Because, like, I think the only time I tried to make edibles was like high school. We just fucking dumped a bunch of weed in a pot. But now it's like when you buy it, it's like this is 5 milligrams of THC. This is 10. This is 20. This, you know, like how does the homemade shit work now?
Well, I mean, again, because you have all the time in the world, like you have a lot of time to experiment. So, not that I used to make edibles. Like I've been making edibles for like a long time, not like regularly uninterrupted, but like I know how to do it. I've been doing it for a while, but like not having done it in a while and now being a good opportunity to do that, you kind of just like experiment. Like I have a general idea of like how shit works and how strong things will be, but it is definitely like a little bit hit or miss. Like I kind of like, I try to keep every element of the process the same. And then you adjust one thing, you know, you do a little controlled
variable. Yeah,
exactly.
I guess you could say I'm a bit of a scientist myself.
Exactly.
The great Flatbush Bake Off.
Exactly. So I mean, I try to handle it that way, where like you make little tweaks. But now after like batch 4 or 5, I think I got a handle on how to do it.
Fire. All right, Rob. We want to move on to the second topic of this podcast. We're done talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
What was once a gauche subject, it is now very chic and in vogue to
radical,
be transparent about your salary and money and your financials. So in the second topic, which again, we're always just ahead of the fucking curve.
Yeah.
We're going to ask you in the section on money, how much money do you make?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I make in the low 6 figures.
Okay.
And I will say that I am happy with that.
Does your salary start with a 9?
With a 9. No, it's just not.
Start with 8. Stop me when I'm right. 8, 7, 6, 5. 5?
Keep going.
4.
So you know what? I'm gonna in the interest of radical honesty, I will tell you exactly what the number is, and I'll explain it first. In that in TV, or at least how I understand it works, and maybe I'm getting fucked here. You get paid a rate essentially. So like I don't have a salary in the same way, but essentially what it is the weekly salary. So every week that I work, I get like a fixed salary, and they take taxes out of it. They do all that. When we're off the air, we don't get paid unless we're working on something. So like I work, but so the thing I love about my work situation is that like I make enough money to last me the year, but I work about somewhere between 35 and 40 weeks a year.
What? Interesting.
That's fire.
Yeah, I'm liking what I'm hearing.
Right. So obviously the cash flow, you gotta manage the cash flow in the sense that like you can't blow your bag as if you're expecting, like when you're off all summer or off all winter, you can't blow the bag before you get to that point when no checks are coming in. But I make a weekly rate. I make $3,000 a week. So that's what but I'll say this too, like a lot of like TV shit is union. So like that's probably like an okay rate, but like it's not anything crazy considering like some of the union minimums are higher than that for different jobs. Right. Which, you know, fair or unfair, I don't really care because I'm happy with what I'm doing. But so you make that, and you make that while you're working. But for like these past 4 weeks, for example, I don't draw paychecks from Deez Camaro. Like, I don't draw a paycheck from the production company there. So that's how it kind of works in television. And like, I don't know if that's like a good thing or a comparable thing, but if you work in TV,
We'll find out.
I'm the head of a department that's not directly related to the production, and I make $3,000 a week. That's my
When this comes out on Tuesday, check the timeline. We'll find out if you're being fairly compensated or taken advantage of.
Yeah. Would you like to make more money,
sure.
Rob? Would you like to make more?
I'd like to make more money. I think that more money is always better to a point. Obviously, there are diminishing returns. I don't think the returns ever get negative on having more money.
Sure.
But they flatten. The curve flattens. So I think that's the case. The thing I've realized, and I've thought about this a lot because I heard you guys talking with Lucas about this, is that like, I think when you're younger and like the way things were presented and like all of us having been children of the 80s and 90s or whatever, I don't know, Chuck was probably born in like 2002 or something. But
I'm pre 9/11, 1993.
Okay. All right. Never forget. So I think that like we had this idea of like being rich as like this thing that you like reach for, and that's like great and like whatever. And like, sure, it would be nice to be rich. It would be nice to have $1 million in the bank, which is like not even really being rich if you live in New York, probably. But I've just found that like I've gotten to a point now and where like I feel fairly secure in like my career, and I feel fairly financially secure, and like I don't really want for anything I don't have. You know, I live in a neighborhood I want to live in. I live in the city I want to live in. Like I'm able to do the shit that I want to do. If you want to
you have at least one gold tooth, maybe more.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I got gold tooth money. So like talk about
not gold teeth, gold tooth.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, but like talk about the most frivolous, non-essential thing of all time. If I had money for that and like whatever, I'm just like saying that the point being is that like being like rich is not a goal of mine, or making a ton more money than I'm making right now is not a goal of mine.
Yeah.
It's just more being able to like live comfortably and be happy and feel fairly comfortable.
It's quality of life.
Like, it's more about quality of life now than like a number, I guess is my point.
I learned this on 90 Day Fiance. The European dream, the American dream is like he who dies with the most stuff wins. The European dream is quality of life and just like experiencing a good quality of life. Let me ask you this though. Again, radical transparency. How much do Jesus and Meryl make?
Oh, I have no idea, honestly. I am sure that they make. We are on TV and we have our own show. Basically, this show is named after them, and I think that gives you the information on like the kind of bag that they're pulling down. But even still, I'm sure that they have a lot of room and a room to grow in that situation too.
For sure.
Like, I don't think that they have like fuck you money. Like, I don't think they're there yet. I think that they just are living very comfortable.
You see, look at Meryl's ropes, right?
Yeah,
Again, it gets thicker millimeter by millimeter every episode.
And speaking of ropes, if there's any economic advice, it's kids are mids. I'm sure Jesus has a lot more fuck around money than Meryl, right? So, you know.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, the other thing too is that like it's not having 4 kids and like a mortgage in New Jersey is not like again going to quality of life. No matter how much money you make, that's going to be a big draw to it. So I think that Meryl's probably just happy that his quality of life includes providing a good quality life for his family. And,
does Meryl ever resent that he fucking got rich like after having kids and never got to experience like being single and rich?
The funny thing about that is that like he's never once like even hinted at that. Like he's like, I gotta say, he's like a good guy in the sense that like it's never. I think if anything, it probably makes him happier because like the stuff that he can do for his kids. You know what I mean? The stuff he can do for his wife, and like I think that makes him happy. That like I think the one thing he does talk about sometimes is that like his wife was with him when shit was not popping. You know what I mean? So like, and would like stayed with him and was like supportive of him and like, exactly. And like was around for when it wasn't easy to be around. And I think that he's just so happy that now like he's able to like show his appreciation for that to his family. So,
well, speaking of Meryl being a confirmed sex haver, let's move on to the third final topic. of this podcast, which is Meats and Cheeks, formerly known as Dad Ass.
Formerly known as Fapping and Clapping.
Yeah, no cap in my clap. You are booed up. You have a girlfriend. You've talked about her a little bit, and you guys moved in together right before quarantine hit. Has quarantine like accelerated the relationship?
I think it wasn't right before, but it was like not that long before, and I think it's definitely accelerated it in the sense that we're like around each other like more than ever. But I think it's like a good thing too, because like you kind of go through this thing with someone and together, and she's like been very like supportive in ways that are like emotional and like real, you know what I mean? Like going to the grocery store, like picking shit up, like doing stuff like that. And I'm like trying to do the things that I can do like for her. And like, it's just good to have like mutual support. So I think that like, it's nice to have that. And like, she's been really good about being a good partner and a good mutual support in this situation, you know, when it's like not easy. And I'm sure I'm not like the most pleasant person to be around like 20 hours a day. You know what I mean?
You don't say.
But, yeah, you know, so I appreciate her for that. So
what about,
I'll say that.
I think like, you know, what kind of gets lost on the DJ sometimes is like you guys are the enablers of cheek clapping when you go out. Like a huge reason why people are out is to fucking find someone to, you know, bump uglies with. So as a DJ man, as a music man, our question is like, what are some must-haves on a sex playlist?
Yeah, what are some sex jams, dude?
On a sex playlist?
Some fuck tunes.
Yeah, I believe that's what they're called in the biz.
I don't know, man. I think it's probably like Catholic guilt, but I'm a little embarrassed by the idea of a sex playlist because yeah, a little bit, because I just feel like there's too much to interpret. I don't need to like have all these things floating around I would be too self-conscious to have sex to a sex playlist.
Hold on, babe. Let me get Genius up real quick. I gotta see something.
Yeah, exactly. Because like someone's gonna say something, I'm gonna notice whatever. Like I don't need the extra distraction. I'm focused on the task at hand. You know what I mean? So
Sure. You want to stay focused. You don't want to go, wait, did French Montana just say Fanute the Coop? Hold on. I got to investigate.
The homie Dick Sucking Ron, he had a sex playlist in college, and when he was like out of the room or whatever, we like fucked with it, and he was hooking up with this girl. And speaking of stand-up, some Jerry Seinfeld stand-up came on. And it was very awkward for all parties involved. Yeah. But I guess, you know, like, why have a sex playlist?
What's the deal with eating pussy?
Yeah, exactly. Because like all you're welcoming is like for bad things to happen. I feel like. So I would advise, if you are into that, just because I DJ or whatever, like people who have sex playlists are the experts on that. And I think it's just like there's too much. It's too fraught. It's too fraught of a decision. And
make your own music.
Exactly.
Your own music.
Make your own sweet music.
Speaking of sweet little boys, Chuck. What? I don't know, man.
Transition. God.
I'm at the end of my transition here. We want to throw the mic over to Chuck, who's I think he's awake at this point. He's been awake for 2 hours. It is 2:30 in the afternoon.
Creative.
30 seconds of thirst, because unfortunately Chef had to bounce to deal with some matters going on at Mother. All right, so we're going to hand Chuck the mic. He's going to ask you anything, pitch you on something. Chuck, with the candy corn background, go off, King.
Yes.
Rob, we talked about like Jesus and Mero's massive presence on social media, and like your kind of like approach to social life right now. You're a tunesman, you're a DJsman, but you're also a tweetsman. I'm a big fan of all your tweets. They always make me very happy. I love your work. What's your like personal approach to social media right now? Because like I know that, you know, there's like rightfully like conversations about not distracting from like bigger issues right now. But like I said, like not that like it's your responsibility or anything, but like I said, like, and I think you kind of touched on this earlier, is like people who are working hard deserve like a laugh every now and then. Like people deserve like, I don't know, maybe a YC fire tweet every now and then. So like, I'm just curious as to like what your social or your like personal approach is.
That's a good question. I guess I approach it, especially lately, you definitely, I think if you do anything on social media, I think the thing that gets people in trouble with social media is when you do something like thoughtlessly. It's like when you post a thing and you didn't really think about what you were posting. When you say something, you didn't really think about what you were saying. It's not about like making the right decision, but like more about like when you don't put thought into something, especially something that's like can be seen by like lots of people or whatever, and you just kind of put it out there without like really giving it any thought. That's like what gets people into issues. And like, that's what people who are, again, are well-meaning, like they say things that like are insensitive, or they do something that's like insensitive. And like, I'm always, and I always have been like always painfully aware of like everything that's like, that I can say and like how it can affect people. And I've said stuff too, where like someone will like gently check me and be like, oh, like this is like a little bit insensitive, or this made me feel bad in a way personally. And like, my goal is never to like make anyone feel bad or like for anything to come at anyone else's expense. You know what I mean? Unless they fucking deserve it and they're terrible, like, which is fine. And I think that like when we talk about broader celebrity and we talk about politicians in general, like they deserve whatever the fuck gets said on the internet about them. And that's fine. But I just like try to put thought into it. So like right now, I think that like people deserve a laugh. People like, it's okay. We're all human. We can like concentrate on two things at the same time. We can express like we can vent and express ourselves and do all those things. But like, you have to like balance that with like still sharing important information, like still shedding a light on things that like people need to see, like to still like amplifying like the right voices, as much as that's become like a cliche phrase. That's like a really good descriptor of what it is. Like sharing information, like, I'm not the expert on like activism or social justice or racism or whatever. I experience it. I like consume it. I learn from other people, whatever. So like trying to like encourage other people to do the same thing and to share those point of views and to share things you've learned and like things with other people is just like a part of what I do. And I also think that like, but also occasionally giving people humor or giving people insight or telling people what you think, especially as a person who has opinions about what's going on, or just people who like look to you for like to say something about anything. You can do both. And I think that sometimes like interspersing some humor and some lightheartedness to what you're doing, and then also having serious discussions about what's happening, about race, about inequality, is like the recipe, essentially. And that's essentially what we're doing here. We spent hours like talking about like, the shit that we like, and like we spent hours talking about lots of shit and having a good time and just hanging out and like being friends and like all that shit. But we also are having serious conversations in the same breath. And I think that helps amplify the message, because if you give people some entertainment, some reprieve from like the bad things that they're feeling right now, but also re-emphasize that like these conversations are important, these issues are important, and we're going to like do something about all this shit. Like you kind of have to have a mix of both. And I think that just doing that helps. It also helps the message not get drowned out if you're not just constantly hitting on these things. And if people are starting to lose like the stamina and the appetite to have these conversations, I know we can criticize them for that, but like to make it a little bit easier for them, to make it a little bit more, make it a little palatable, it's okay to like intersperse some humanity and how you're feeling and like your personal things, and like intersperse some fun in between that.
Do you think, like, have you thought about like the responsibility that somebody has? Like, you have what, like 40,000 followers on Twitter or whatever. And do you think a lot about the responsibility that comes with the platform? Is that something like you actively process, or for you, is this like, I'm just going to do the right thing always, and you don't think about that? Because I think for us, right, with the podcast, we're still trying to figure this out day by day. And it's, we've talked about it before, the goalpost move, it's a floating target, like, things change.
Right.
Every day. Like, have you thought about that a bunch, or again, is it just like an innate thing that, it doesn't really come up?
I guess I haven't thought about it that much recently, because I think, again, with my approach to like social media, and when it got to the point where it started feeling like, which is all very recent, when it got to the point it started feeling like a lot of people were actually listening to what I was saying, like that's when like I started feeling a responsibility not to speak up for social causes or not to speak up on specific things, but to know like the responsibility that I started to feel that I had was to like do no harm, and to not perpetuate harm on people that are just like undeserving of it. And like to know that like my words matter. And as much as like Twitter doesn't mean shit and like I'm just one person and like what I have to say in my opinions aren't like the most best or most well-formed, like when you already know that at least one person is on the other end of what you're saying, what you're doing, even in a one-to-one conversation, you have a responsibility from that point on.
Right.
Forget what's happening out in the world. Even if everything was perfect and everything was fine, even if like you have 100 followers or 100,000 followers on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter or whatever, the minute that you're actually not speaking into the void and someone has heard you, you have a responsibility. And that's how I've always approached it. So like, this is just kind of like an extension of that in the sense that like, yeah, I have a platform and I think it's important to use that platform to like highlight certain issues and more specifically to highlight people who are doing the work and sharing the information and doing the scholarship on like all these issues. I have that responsibility, but generally speaking, I think all of us on social media, even if no one follows you, even if no one like pays attention to what you're doing, we all have a responsibility to be more conscientious about what we say to other people, like on a one-to-one basis or on a social media basis. So that's
more empathy, more life.
Always that. If you make a joke and it hurts someone's feelings, like even if you don't understand why, or you don't think it's like that big of a deal, like is it really that important to you? Even if it hurts one person, is it really that important to you? You know what I mean? Like that's how I look at it.
Well, Rob, we fully respect your opinions. We only have guests on the show whose opinions we respect, plus also Neve Schulman that one time.
Damn, dude.
And speaking of having a platform, let's use this opportunity. Exactly. Whatever. He's not listening to this. Let's use this opportunity.
Also, fuck Neve Schulman. Who cares? Bro?
Exactly. to talk about the good guys, meaning we're putting Neve Schulman in the rearview mirror.
What?
We're going to move on to fuck with, not fuck with.
It's a working title, Rob.
Still a working title. It's at the end of the episode now, but we're going to throw some categories at you we want to know, and we'll make this snappy and run through this because Lawrence and I, we have a consulting meting in half an hour. We want to know what you're fucking with and what you're not fucking with. First up, brands. What brands are you currently fucking with?
A lot of my shit hasn't like changed in a while. I still dress like a divorced gym teacher.
So every gym teacher.
Yeah, exactly. I just a gym teacher. That's like, that.
Don't be redundant. Don't be redundant.
Exactly. That was a faux pas on my part. So I mean, a lot of the stuff that I like purchase, like it's like kind of the same shit that we talked about last time. So like got a lot of like John Elliott stuff that's like waiting to be worn. A lot of cozy wear. I still fuck with double taps. I have a couple like chore coats that I'm trying to break out again. Speaking of things that you can't wear in the summer. Speaking of which, did any of you guys, I don't know, because you guys are in the post sneaker world, but did any of you guys get or have opportunity to get those double taps New Balances?
No, but they're fire, dude.
The green joints,
God.
Yeah, the plug didn't hook us up because we have a little connect over at
Right.
And
I think we asked the plug in there like, yo, these things moved.
I asked for the Aries ones. Did you see those, Rob? The tennis ball, the 992 as well. That came out a while back. Those are great too. I think they just got restocked. But yeah, double taps snapped, dude. Those were big gas.
That was the first sneaker in a while. Because like I honestly, at this point in my life, do not believe, unless you can find a plug, I do not believe in pursuing hard to get sneakers.
Yeah.
But
that's a big part of. That's a big reason why we believe in the post sneaker world.
That's a tenant for sure, a major tenant, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm slowly trying to get into that because like most of the shit that I wear is just like it's not gonna go well with like the loafers and shit that I have. But I just like cleaned out my closet a little bit, and I like have a couple of things that are start like transition into the post sneaker world, like that little like border shoe. So I have like a lot of I had those like crushed velvet like purple Nepenthes like Needles Vans.
Needles Vans, yeah. With the little gold dangly.
Gold dangly skull on it. I got those a while ago on Lucas's recommendation, actually. Shout out to him. And then I got another pair that because Vans makes those models and like makes it a couple. That was a collaboration joint, but I also I'm going to bring it into the screen because why not? Because you got to kind of see it.
The people at home are definitely appreciate this.
Can fuck themselves. But I got the Peacock slip on
Wow,
little
with the
slip-ons.
penny loafer.
Oh, the
too.
penny.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so I got a couple joints that I get that are post sneaker or on the way to being post sneaker, and
They're transitioning.
Yeah, and I'm trying to like decide, and again, the decision's being made for me because summer is canceled. I'm trying to decide whether or not it's advisable. Maybe you can tell me to go back to a little to like stick a toe back into the boat shoe situation.
Ooh, interesting.
But I don't know if that's like advisable or not. But I'm having thoughts because I found some old pairs like from Eastland and Tobago in my closet that I've had for a long time. Being a fake a poser preppy guy.
Well, what I'll say on boat shoes, Rob, if you do care for my opinion on the matter as a professional Johnsman, and this has been coming up a bunch on the pod, most recently just with the homie Lucas last week, and a lot of this is coming from our homie Antonio at 18 East, but the Timberland boat shoe on like the thick lug sole, what is it, the 3-eye?
Oh,
that's like a really, because Sperry's and Sabagos, there's good pairs and there's classic styles and there's really cool collabs too. I know Noah does an ongoing Sperry collaboration. I think Brendan is like a creative director or something of Sperry too. But I love that Timberland is kind of like, and talk about with fall coming up with some jeans and a nice thick wool rag sock, like that could be how you do the boat shoe thing now for sure.
And I think Engineered Garments did a collab with the 3-eye Timbo. If you want to go like a little, tweak it or freak it a little bit, so you're not just have what everybody else has.
Yeah, you don't want to. It wasn't. You got lost on your way to Murray Hill or something.
Yeah, and it wasn't super overhyped or anything. So I remember, when I was in the Penthees pre-Quar, like they were still on the shelves there. Like it's still, it's not like a crazy hyped collaboration or anything, but it's definitely underrated.
This is the journalism that people come for.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The hard hitting, long range shit that we do.
Yeah, for sure.
Are there any brands you're not fucking with? Like anything you see out there that's just like not for you before we continue on to the footwear portion of the pod?
I feel like I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about this shit that I don't fuck with as far as brands because it's easy enough to just like avoid it, and I don't want to because like I think that like the thing about like personal style and shit is just that like it's personal, like whatever you like you're allowed to like. I mean, I've never been, I know this is a popular to say now, but I've never been like a big like off-white guy or whatever because like again it just feels like it's like the sneaker thing that we just talked about. It just feels like this pursuit of this thing that like the pursuit like means more than the thing at a certain point, and like the designs shit aren't for me, and like I just think of that as like the one very popular brand that I've never even considered like purchasing anything from because it's like it's prohibitively hard to get, and it's also just something that like doesn't like resonate with me at all.
Yeah. All right, moving on to footwear, which we've already touched on. So besides the boat shoes, besides these kind of like borderline transitional pieces between the sneaker world and non-sneakers, which is exactly where the post-sneaker world exists, is, a literal 1 foot in each. What else are you fucking with footwear-wise?
Yeah.
What else am I fucking with footwear-wise? I mean, not
that we're wearing fucking, anything on our feet these days.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I got a pair a while ago of the collabs with Sweet Coke and ALD. I mean, they had like a kind of like navy blue pair of the like what I'm talking about, the like slip-ons with the fur inside or something.
Yeah.
Again,
like fancy UGG.
Yeah, exactly. Those are a confusing shoe to wear because it's unclear what weather it's unclear what weather calls for an open heel and fur inside of the toe.
Yeah. We were talking about these. You were going back and forth on them, and I was like, yo, Sweet Coke is gas. Like, and I said, like, that particular model does look kind of strange on feet. It looks really cool in product shots, but with pants, it look kind of crazy.
Yeah,
for sure. But actually, I wish they had a little bit of a sturdier sole. But like, I copped them, and they look good on my feet. And like with the shit I wear, again with the whole divorced gym teacher house shoe shit,
right?
It does look good in that context. But it's also just kind of like it's one of those shoes where it's just like you don't have a pair of shoes that are like them. You know what I mean? So I definitely like that cop. And I have a pair
those
of
need to come with a complimentary dog to walk, because that's what those are. That's like the dog walking, the dog walking threes, bro. For in fall, a crispy day, that's the move. Sure.
Absolutely. And that's the shoe that that's the I have my own shopping cart grocery shoe. You know what I mean? That's the vibe on those, and I like that. So that's something I'm fucking with. I don't think I bought a pair of shoes again because of this situation in a while. I don't even remember what the last joints that I bought were. I have a pair of those, again, in the same theme of not hard to get shit. I have a pair of those low top ghetto gastro black, green, red Jordan 1s.
Yeah. Those are sick.
That collab. And that's a cool shoe too, because it's kind of it looks like a Dunk, but it has that weird new Nike rubber tire sole that's real thick, the React sole. There's the React sole on the bottom. So I fuck with those. And that's probably the last pair of shoes I got.
Do you have a Mount Rushmore of sneakers? If you had to pick top 4 of all time, unranked, what are they? Not that we're endorsing Mount Rushmore or any other type of statue.
Oh shit! Yo, we might need to tear down this segment, dog.
It's a Mount Crushmore.
Yeah.
If Jefferson Davis was a shoe, who would he be?
Jefferson Davis?
No. Yeah, no. We're getting off topic here. I think my favorite sneakers of all time. I mean, I'm a Jordan guy, not in the sense that I own a lot of pairs, but in that I admire the classic, they created sneaker culture, for better or worse, for what they are. So I'm a big fan of the Jordan 3s. That's probably my favorite model as far as Jordans goes. I'm a big Nike ACG guy. I love what they do with their clothes and with their shoes. So I have a few ACG pairs and collab pairs.
I'm wearing ACG shorts right now, baby. Shout out Nike ACG. Definitely the best Nike line, in my opinion.
Oh, easily. I mean, I had 3 pairs of those weird ACG drawstring shoes that the guy from Undercover made. I got 3 pairs of those. I got a weird acronym. The guy from Acronym. I mean,
Errolson Hugh.
I got those Volt Yellow first. A lot of the shoes that I like is just great, and I realized that's what's good is that keeping shoes for years and then pulling them out, even if they're a little bit beat up.
Sure.
Is cool because I still have the first pair of Volt Acronym Prestos. I still have
very spicy.
I still have the cream colored Supreme Snakeskin Air Max.
The 98s, those fucking rock, dude. Those rock.
And they're starting to come apart a little bit, but they only look better because of it, and they're fire. And I actually purchased those on Grailed and didn't get beat in the head too bad back in the day, years ago. But I still have them, so they've been a good cop for me. And like I said, I'm a big ACG guy. But as far as iconic sneakers of all time, I think the Jordan 3s are probably my favorite of all time. And then I would say, I think the Jordan 3s, Air Max 95, I got a pair of those. I got a pair of those when they came out with the Nike ID, with that weird rubber plastic material where it's kind of like a squeaky toy almost. I got a pair of those just because it's like a classic Air Max 95 with funny weird materials. I think actually, for better or worse, I think that was a Heron Preston thing actually. But I got a pair of those. So I mean, Air Max and Jordan 3s, I think, are my favorite all time sneakers.
That works for us. That's 2.
Yeah.
But since we're tearing down Mount Crushmore, fuck it.
Yeah.
We're
halfway there. We're halfway there.
I don't know if I have another 2, honestly.
All right, let's get into something that you've recently become an expert on, which is TV shows and also films. So just kind of visual entertainment. What TV shows and films are you currently fucking with besides Jesus and Mero on Showtime?
Currently, let's think. First of all, shout out to anyone who has parents that still have cable. I got the HBO Max shit. which is actually very fire. I think that like, even though, do we need more streaming things? Probably not, but this one's pretty good and provides a lot of shit.
And it's not TV. It's not TV. It's HBO.
It's not TV. It's HBO. I don't know if your listenership would understand that reference, but
I've only said it a million times on this podcast, so I hope at this point, if they thought I came up with it, that's
they
cool.
do now.
Yeah,
They think, I'm pretty sure a lot of them think you came up with that.
That works for me, dog.
Yeah, exactly. I recently watched Ford versus Ferrari on that.
Big dad movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very big dad movie, and it's not like the greatest work of cinema of all time, but it was very interesting because like a lot of it like mirrors one of the aspects of the movie, like a big theme of it is like the bureaucracy of working with like a large corporation.
Absolutely.
And I thought that wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting like cars go vroom and like Christian Bale cool shit. Exactly. So that was kind of interesting and cool or whatever.
Resounding what a ringing endorsement.
Yeah, I mean that was cool or whatever, you know.
So it's
car machine goes burr.
Yeah, it's basically a bureaucracy biopic. Have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of weird thing to say, and like obviously it's got good. Like if you like looking at like cool looking cars, it's got that as well.
Here's the next thing you got to do, Rob. Next time you catch some shit from these Showtime suits, take one of them into your fucking Ferrari or Ford and go fast, and then they'll be.
Yeah, exactly.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I'm glad that you've seen this fine film. So that was a good one. I actually recently watched again on HBO Max. I recently watched a documentary about Roy Cohn.
Yeah,
like Roy Cohn. This is a real deep reference for our young.
This just dropped. This just came out.
Oh, it's new.
Nixon's boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was new, but he's like Nixon's boy. He's part of all the like McCarthy hearing shit.
Yep.
And he also was like the lawyer for the Studio 54 guys when they were going through their like when the IRS came in and found money in the roof panels.
Yeah.
Like he was their lawyer, and that one is a good one because it's
and
like
he trained Roger Stone. He was Roger Stone's fucking mentor.
Right. So like my criteria for like most movies and shit is that like it's good. You probably learn something, and it's not too long. And I think it hits those three things very well because I think it's like under 90 minutes, and it's like really interesting. Especially even if you don't know, if you have no idea who this guy is, like it's super interesting. And if you know a little bit about him, it's still super interesting. So
this guy's got Roy Cohn's disease.
Exactly. So it's like interesting to like to watch something like that. And it's also great because like every person in the documentary talks about him. Like you never hear people unequivocally say this person's a bad person, he's a piece of shit, and I hope he burns in hell. And this documentary does that for like 80 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And well deserved,
Yeah, it's 80 minutes of people spitting on this guy's grave, and it's just like you just don't get to see that very much anymore. So I think that's like a nice nature's healing.
So we got a bureaucracy biopic and then a really uplifting documentary.
Yeah, exactly. So you know what my television habits are like. So that's kind of like what I'm fucking with right now. I watch How to Get Away with Murder on Netflix with my girlfriend, and like it's really like over the top melodramatic, but like you're just kind of like really locked in. So I just started that. I don't know. I don't know if I've seen any cool new things. Like what's been new that's come out lately? And
I know you hate stand-up, but I was going to say the Eric Andre stand-up.
Yeah.
Just dropped like 2 days ago or some shit.
I fuck with Eric Andre. I'd watch that. I'd give that a chance, but yeah, I would give that a chance over a lot of other shit.
And it's not, and his shit is he obviously it's a stand up special, but like there's good crowd work and like bits and stuff that it feels very that again. If someone listening is with Rob and hates stand up, this could be like an interesting transitionary piece of between these two worlds.
Right.
What about Black Lives Matter adjacent organizations and causes? What are you fucking with? And then what are you not fucking with? But first up, let's keep it positive. We talked about direct mutual aid, where you're just like literally just funding the betterment of someone's life and all the money goes to them minus any, processing fees via GoFundMe or whatever the fuck. But yeah, any other causes or organizations stand out that you want to bring some shine to and exposure to?
Well, absolutely. I want to highlight one specifically and to give them all of my time and space because it's a new organization. It's a new to me organization that I've heard about. And like, I think it's really important to like donate to bail funds, even though it's questionable what happens with those bail monies once the government has it, et cetera, et cetera. And like to contribute to these individual GoFundMes that are funding like the families of people who've been affected and all that. But this organization that I found out recently is called Equality for Flatbush. And they're a community organization that basically says they are self-proclaimed having two goals. And the two goals are, one, to stop murders by NYPD. So to stop NYPD murders is their first goal.
That's a good
Great goal.
And two is to stop the displacement of like low and middle income people from their neighborhoods.
Great.
So I think that like they do that in a variety of ways, whether it's education, whether it's funding programs to teach people and actually execute alternatives to calling 911 and calling the police. Like they do that. They're big in like mobilizing the protests that we've seen happen in the Flatbush neighborhood and all through New York. There's Equality for Flatbush is a great organization. They're doing like a lot of shit that's like helping people with COVID, helping people with like the police violence problems that we're having, helping people protest, helping like mutual aid. Like they're just like they're like approaching like all these problems, even under those two very specific goals. They're like approaching these problems in like a variety of ways. And of course, like that's where I'm from. So like I want to rep the home team. So I really fuck with Equality for Flatbush, and I just want to thank them for everything that they're doing.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. Anyone you're not fucking with. No, I'm just kidding. We're not even gonna bring their name onto the airwaves. Let's talk about though real quick, just music. What music are you currently fucking with? You're a tunesman, you're a DJ. What's been in the eyes of the side of the face?
That new Fat Man Key release.
Ooh!
So Key,
Hell yeah.
Boys
that
don't
shit
cry.
was fire.
So
Yeah,
good.
Boys Don't Cry. There you go, fire. He always his projects are always like pretty
Most
much fire,
underrated
though.
in the game, dog, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
the father of a lot of Atlanta guys' styles. Like everyone talks about Thugger
Mhm.
and his kind of coaching tree, but Key, Cardi, a lot of those guys, obviously Awful Records is part of that too. But yeah, I mean, obviously, Rob, I should let you talk. I'm sorry for.
No,
I just love
please.
Key. I love Key, dude. I love.
Yeah, I think he's a little bit slept on. I think he like deserves it. He's killing it out here. Like he's never put out, when he put out the project before this one with like Miami Too Much and all that shit on it. Like I was fucking with it then, and like he's obviously been around a while beyond that too. But
The Kenny
I'm
Beats
fucking with
tape
that.
is incredible too. That's my favorite project of his. That's just wall to wall slaps.
True.
Yeah.
The joint with like Love on Ice and like the really long joint. Yeah, that's one of my favorite joints too. Which also one of my boys put me onto that. One of my friends that recently passed away, unfortunately, he put me onto that tape too. And like I fuck with Key, so I'll leave it at Key for right now because I've been listening to like shit, but I'm also like it's like I haven't been consuming any I've been consuming a lot less music like at the start of like since all of this has happened, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the key thing really broke through the noise. So I've been fucking with that on repeat.
Well, we definitely have a lot of good outro music for this now. If Key's whole discography is ready to go in the chamber.
Grabs.
Thank you.
Let's
Rob.
let's bring it back to John's real quick. Fuck would not fuck with working title complete. Let's bring it back to John's real quick, just one time. We want to know, especially in these weird times where you don't know what season you're copping for. You might be copping fits for 2021 at this point. We want to know what was the last John you copped, and then we want to know what's the next John you got your eye on. So we'll start with the last John. You mentioned you haven't copped sneakers in a while, but you have been copping shit that was meant for spring, summer 2020, but who knows? What was the last John you copped?
I copped the shorts that I'm wearing now recently because it was on sale on Eastbay. Speaking of your age,
Damn.
so if you're into Eastbay catalogs, there's the plug there.
Are you still cruising Eastbay catalogs?
Yeah.
No, I just like occasionally will come across something on social media that's like there's a sale on like Mitchell and Ness shit, and like you go to the website and you're like, oh, I'm on Eastbay, which has a website. That's weird.
There's only two ethical corporations in America: Patagonia and Eastbay.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if that's true. I hope I didn't say the wrong thing, but shout out Eastman.
Shout out, Southeast Bay, shout out to Patagonia for sure. I can't wait to put on some more fleece to get back to fleece weather when we're actually maybe outside. And then before that, I think the last thing that I bought that was like at all remotely interesting is I got a pair of those like black. I got a pair of those Supreme like velour grid pants. They like have those like squares all over them.
Yeah.
So I fuck with those because they're like comfortable and they're not like a thick, like heavy, like velour material. So
is there branding? Is there overt branding or
there's a very subtle like Supreme in script logo on like the upper thigh, which usually is like not even that visible, which is fire. And I like the fact that it's in black, so you can't really see that it's like a pair of like honeycomb pants until you're up close. I fuck with those. So yeah, I copped a pair of the Carlisle lounge pants.
The tear gas
that was my last top.
Yo, we need that collab with Raytheon, bro.
Yeah, we need that. We need a BOGO on a Tomahawk missile. What about what's the next, John? You got your eye on what maybe if it's even on your credit card. You put a fucking initial payment down, and what's the next, John, coming up?
Oh man, I don't really know. I'm a big like outerwear person, so I'm just like waiting until that season returns to buy more jackets and buy more of that kind of shit. Like I just love that kind of thing. I got, like I mentioned earlier, I got like these two like double taps like chore coats, and I've been looking at more like tap shit. Nothing specific, but I think that like the next. I might replace my very well-loved, well-worn Carhartt Whip winter coat. I have like they're like snorkel, like their jacket, the snorkel with the like removable fur trim bullshit. I've had that, and it's still in great condition, but I've had it for like 6 years, and I'm just like want a new winter coat. So the next thing I'm probably going to cop is probably a new winter coat.
Fire.
That's an awesome New York ritual. Is the purchase of like the new
parka?
Yeah, the new big guy, the big bubble goose or whatever. Yeah,
the big boy,
the brick John. When
the
it's
big
truly brick out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about your house slippers. We're not putting the park on the feet. We're talking about the big bubble.
Yes, right.
What about, so you mentioned that you, in the early days of quarantine, you were just like shopping a lot. Was there anything you copped during quarantine that you're just like, you look back and you're just like, why the fuck did I buy that? Like your strangest quarantine cop.
I don't have anything that's strange yet. But the thing about it is that like, I feel like I bought some like, adult person pants from Todd Snyder, and like I don't even remember what they were, to tell you like my disregard for like shopping conscientiously. So I would think that's probably my strangest person, because actually I got a pair of wool check pants from them, and I'm like, why did I buy wool pants in March? I don't know why. So they're gonna sit in my closet for like 6 months at this point. So that's probably the weirdest thing. And then the other thing that like, aside from clothing, I've been buying a lot of shit to cook with, because like, that's just like a thing that like, you realize now
that's
that
the thing
like,
we do now.
Like utensils or like food.
No, like utensils, like in the sense that like you realize like now you're like not going out to eat as much, you're not getting as much delivery. You're like, I don't have a fucking spatula. Let's put it or something. Like that's what I'm realizing is the weirdest thing, because I've got so much kitchen shit now. Like I've got baking sheets. I got like the meat tenderizer mallet.
Ooh, yeah.
Makes you schnitzel.
I got like the
some Milanese.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of that, it's like I don't just have the cast iron skillet that I've always had. I have the fucking weight that you put on top, so you can like press your hamburger into the fucking mush.
Hell
like
yeah.
I got like all this random shit now.
If you start, that stuff is rampant on the IG timelines. So if you start speaking that stuff out loud, like we're all going to start getting like weird, kooky, like make the weird BuzzFeed tasty thing with this, it's insane like 3-in-1 instrument now.
Oh, it's already happening where like you're getting Instagram ads for like frying pans where people are like melting hard candy in it and shit, and it's like flipped off.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm already getting those like crazy. So.
All right, Rob, before we get you out of here, we want to ask you one last question, which is, for the 18 million listening at home. Actually, it might be, we just dropped a very special episode that we're not going to talk about, but it's behind the paywall. But we may have gotten a bump from that. I don't know yet. The numbers are still trickling in.
It's not a public episode, so I don't believe so.
Right. The numbers are still coming in. just like our man Charles Booker in Kentucky. However, that being said, we want to ask you, for anyone listening at home who might want to, get into TV and entertainment, especially if they don't necessarily fit the mold of your typical TV industry person, aka a white person with connections, what's the foundational piece of advice you'd give to someone who wants to get into TV, especially if they're coming from a untraditional origin place?
I think a good way to do that is to follow, not in in the literal sense of social media, but also not in that sense. Follow people whose work that you like a lot, or shows that you enjoy, or that the kind of things that you'd want to work on. Keep track of what's happening with those properties and with those people and what they're working on. And I think now is probably not that I want to bombard people, and the way you approach people is always going to be key. And I don't really understand how to teach someone to be a person in that way, but reach out to people that are working in the industry that you want to talk to. Cause I think right now, especially when you talk about Black people and trying to get more Black faces in these places, now I think it's a good time to hit people up and to talk about how you got into this. How can I build a portfolio or a resume, or get looked at. I think it's important to just start those conversations and those relationships with people already in TV. I get DMs from people that I do not know at all, who very respectfully will ask me about the shit that I'm working on, and ask me about whether or not there are any job openings, not in a scuzzy way, but they'll ask me about what kind of shit can they do? Can they things they can assist with? How do they get their foot in the door? And even just I'm willing to have those conversations with people. Not everyone is, and you got to respect that. But people are definitely willing to talk to you about what they're doing and how they did it. And I think that I think just the first key foundational piece of advice I would say is to kind of be respectful and be kind, but get over that shyness to reach out to someone to talk to them about.
And I just want to piggyback on what Rob said, because I agree wholeheartedly. And we've talked about this a bit on the show, where it's and James and I answer every DM on purpose. It's just, it's okay to be shy, but you need to get over that hump. The big thing is just be respectful to that person.
Right.
And then you would be surprised how many people that maybe you're a fan of or you look up to, want to have that conversation, that want to help out.
Absolutely.
You just got to approach it in the right way. So if anyone is listening is a little bit afraid or shy or, this is, or doesn't know where to start, this is the perfect thing. Just do it and be respectful, and you will begin reaping the benefits of just that first step.
Absolutely. And I think that people who are a little bit shy or concerned or worried about being intrusive, especially, already have the mindset of trying to be respectful.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that that's why those people who are having those internal discussions with themselves should reach out to people that you admire, whose work you admire, and just have a good conversation with them and make a connection, link up, and maybe that will blossom into something. It doesn't have to, but you'll at least get some free game, and that's always good.
Free game, baby.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
All right, Rob. You work for the funniest and coolest show on TV right now. I say that not one of, I say the. You are running a fucking department with no white people, which I highly commend. And you're clearly thriving. You've been there a year and a half, and you're about to, enter season 2.
We're in season 2 right now, so we'll see what happens. We're
coming for the back half of season 2. Clearly thriving. However, Lawrence and I, we want to see you really, truly take off and blast off to the moon. So we want to offer up some constructive criticism. Keyword constructive. All right. So take it or leave it. This isn't meant to tear you down. This is meant to build you up even higher and flyer than you already are. The first one: leave Jesus Marrow and launch the Throwing Fits late night show.
Easy.
Easy one. That's an easy one.
Start from scratch. I mean, this, you've peaked with Jesus Marrow. Why don't you just see if you can repeat the success with 2 mediocre, average looking guys?
Yeah.
Tempting. New challenge.
Something to think about. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you don't want the responsibility of being a showrunner. Maybe you want to half retire, kind of like what James and I have decided to do by quitting our jobs and just doing this shit. So how about just join the TF Writers Room? You know, there has been more podcasts than run of show. Let's just leave it at that, right? Like we could, some of the titles are still working. Segments are pretty locked in. The biggest thing that we've been doing right now is just we reverse the order of the show. So again, any type of new pitching, new ideation, there is always a seat for you, Rob, at our table because you are hilarious and we love you.
I love to hear it. Thank you.
Think about it. Look, if you're not going to leave D&M for TF, which, you know, some could understand that, why don't we just kind of flip the script a little bit, have us on Jesus and Mero.
There you
That's
go.
An easy one. Yeah, let's make it happen.
We have nothing to particularly like offer as guests, but like, you know, let's tap into some nepotism, doggy.
They've had on the biggest athletes in the world, the biggest politicians in the world, the biggest actors, celebrities, and fucking entertainers in the world. Why not just two podcasters with like, you know, several tens of thousands of listeners per episode?
Two average-looking podcasters, I might add.
What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
And then finally, Rob, just because, like, listen, man, we love you and you kill it all the time, but you might want to try taking an L just every so often to keep yourself humble, dude. Just a thought. Just a thought.
That's a thought. I will take that under advisement. But
take no losses. Take no losses and rebrand as a loss every now and then.
Some losses. You know, that's reality. That's life.
That'd be a fire sticker. I know you guys love your stickers. That'd be fire.
Yeah. Rebrand no losses as
you know.
Yeah. We do all right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Po Buddy's nerfed. All right, Rob. Where can the kids follow you? Who do you want to shout out? Let's get you the fuck out of here so you can continue eating a bunch of weed and doing nothing all day.
Plugs.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
sounds
plug
good.
them up.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. You can follow me on Twitter at YC, formerly Young Costanza, currently at YC. Instagram at YC.718. The area code. So you can follow me at those places. You know, we're still doing no losses. It's going to be a while before we relaunch that because they're bigger fish to fry right now, and that's perfectly fine with both of us. And we're figuring that out hopefully in the future. So you know, shout out to that. Shout out to my girlfriend Jeanette. You know, she's been holding me down during the quarantine. Shout out to her. Shout out to Lucas, the homie. And I just want to give a special shout out to all my friends and all the people in my life who have been blessed to have experienced any kind of interaction with my good friend Dan Burns, who recently passed away. So I just want to give love and support to all my friends, all of his friends and family. And I just want to say that I miss Dan a lot, and I will always think of him. And I'm thinking of all my people out there who were affected by all the goodness he's brought into our lives.
An elite individual. I only had the pleasure of meeting him one time, but definitely a great dude. So, yeah, R.I.P. to Dan for real. I just want to echo that for sure.
We fucking love you, bro. Thank you for coming on the only podcast that matters.
Yeah, thank you, Rob.
Time out of your day. Chef, welcome back to the Zoom. While you're here, I'm going to need you to hit that motherfucking outro music, doggy.
Boys don't cry. Hurricane season, but it's category 5. I can feel the pulse, but I'd rather let it die. Yeah, I'd rather let it die. You can never get my mind, no, you'll never get inside, no. I didn't see it first, now it's magnified. Had a little taste, no, I'm traumatized. You want me to stay, I have not arrived. You and me against the world, but I don't want to lie. Who am I kidding? I've been kidding myself. I speak for me, can't speak for anybody else. Show my hands if it's anybody else. Self-medication, I've been healing myself. Ay, driving fast, I forgot where I was going. Ay, I picked you was chosen. Ay, we locked in, we was frozen. Things changed, not me. Ay, you wanted this and got me. I think you've been missed. I wanna love, what is this? Boys don't cry. Hurricane season, but it's category 5. I can feel the pulse, but I'd rather